Am I the asshole here for breaking up with my boyfriend because he lost my dog? Me, 24 female, and my boyfriend, 24 male, have been together for almost 4 years. We get along okay for the most part. Things like him losing something of mine have happened, but never to this level. I've had a dog, Milo, 12 female, for her whole life. We grew up together, and it's really hard for her to get to trust other people. She's always been an anxious girl, but she's the light of my life and was always by my side, even on my worst days. 3 years ago, I introduced my boyfriend to my family, which is just my mum and Milo. He and my mum got along okay, but he didn't acknowledge Milo in any way, which is fine. I didn't expect him to be all over her, considering she does not like that, but I still found it pretty strange because he said he absolutely loved dogs, and to be honest, I believed that because he would always pet dogs when we were outside. Any interaction for the past 3 years with her was limited, but Milo warmed up to him. She would greet him, go to him for pets, which is something he gave, and accepted him on our daily walks. 1.5 years ago, Milo got sick. She had a tooth infection, which was pretty bad. Her whole right eye was swollen shut. I asked my boyfriend to take us to the vet because I don't have a car. The vet took care of the infection, gave me some antibiotics to give her every day, and instructions to clean the wound that was left after the vet cleaned the pus. For a couple of weeks, I didn't hang out that much with my boyfriend. I took care of Milo because she was not feeling great. One thing that stood out to me was the fact that he seemed pretty pissed every time I brought her up, talking about her progress. Looking back, that should have risen some red flags, but I guess I brushed it off. Now that I've given you that short version of the past, this is what's happening in the present. So I planned with my mum to go on a short vacation to visit my grandparents. I was talking to my boyfriend about this trip, and I told him who would take care of Milo, my best friend Alex, 23 male. My boyfriend then offered to take care of her. He was mad that I didn't come to him first, stating that he loves Milo and wants to go on walks with her. I reluctantly agreed, considering this love for her was out of the blue. The trip was supposed to last 3 days, and on day 2, I was talking to my boyfriend on the phone, and he casually says that Milo really likes to stay outside. And for me, this felt off, and I asked him what he meant. He left my sweet girl outside for hours at a time, alone, and would check up on her hourly. Mind you, I live in an apartment and I don't have a backyard. Me and my mum left as soon as I told her, and we arrived back home at around 9 p.m. And since then, I blocked my boyfriend on everything and have been searching for my girl. I've printed posters, went out every day for hours at a time, and put her on Facebook groups around my area. Now he and his friend group say that I'm an asshole because I've put my dog above my boyfriend in all 4 years of our relationship. I know for a fact this is not true, but I don't have anyone else to ask besides people that are really close to me and would be biased. In the comments, Velvety Heart says, "Not the asshole. Your boyfriend's negligence led to your dog's disappearance, and his lack of care for Milo over the years clearly shows where his priorities lie. Breaking up was justified. Keep searching for Milo. Involve local shelters, vets, and social media for broader reach." Usual Canary says, "He got rid of his competition. It's that simple. That's why he suddenly loved her out of the blue. It was his opportunity to get rid of the attention that he wanted from you. Not the asshole, and good riddance. What a prick." This was my immediate thought after the backstory. He didn't like that OP was giving more attention to her dog when the dog got sick. The ex-boyfriend seized an opportunity to get rid of the dog. I suspect he did something more nefarious than simply leaving the dog outside all day. OP, you are absolutely choosing your dog over this man, and rightfully so. There's really no question where your priorities should be, and you've put your priority in the right place. Your dog has been in your life 3 times longer than you were with this man. Your dog is dependent on you, and you have a responsibility to be your dog's caregiver. Your ex is not your dependent, and you don't have the same responsibility for him as you do for your dog. Yeah, I would escalate this as much as possible, and find your dog as soon as possible, and when you do, take him to the police and charge him for whatever you can get him on the hook for. He's already admitted that he left the dog outside. You can get him for that. He deserves whatever repercussions you can send his way, because that is a disgusting thing that he has done. That dog is as much family as anyone else in your family is. It's completely unacceptable. He just lost, quote unquote, your family member. Nah. I'd lose my shit. I would absolutely go psycho on him, and I'd do whatever I can to bring the law down as hard as possible on this guy, not the asshole OP. Breaking up with him is the least of his worries. And now, onto the update, one day later. For the people that wanted to see my girl, here is a picture of her. Hi, a lot of people asked me for an update. I should have waited until I got some rest, but you were all so helpful, and you deserve to know how this ended. So my ex came today to get his stuff, and some of you might be happy for what you're about to read, but he didn't get a single thing back. When he saw me, he started begging me to forgive him, and thanks to you again, I agreed to forgive him if he told me the truth. He just looked me straight in the face and said, "If I'm gonna be honest, you won't forgive me." My heart broke all over again, thinking about the worst of things. When he saw me cry, he told me that I should get over it because she was already old. But if I really wanted her back, I should get back with him, and when he trusts me that I really forgave him, I could see her again. I was exhausted, hopeless, and angered, and even though I wanted my girl back, I couldn't look at him, let alone be with him however long he thought that it would take me to forgive him. So he left, not telling me a single thing about Milo. I got a call some hours later, and on the other end was a lady who found Milo on the other side of the road. She told me she'd wait for me to come, because when she wanted me to pick her up, she seemed to be in pain. When I got there and saw her laying there, all of my emotions flooded over me. My sweet baby, even though she looked so different, was alive. She is now staying overnight at the vet. She has 2 broken ribs and is dehydrated. If everything goes well, she will be home soon. I appreciate each and every one of you that took time to guide me in this nightmare. Thank you again, and I will be pressing charges. In the comments, Klutzybook says, "I'm so glad that Milo was okay. I had a feeling he did something horrible to her. This man is dangerous and has shown you who he is. Please be safe and never let him back into your life. This is massive stalker/sociopathic behavior." Sneaky Snail says, "Agree. I feel like he kicked her and broke her ribs, and then she went away to hide. I don't think a car hit would have caused only broken ribs. That ex is a piece of shit and deserves nothing in life. OP, good luck and best wishes to you and Miss Milo." And OP says, the vet doesn't think she was hit by a car either. It will be on her file. Thank you. And Sixicus the Sixth says, "You need to file a police report for your country's equivalent of animal cruelty, or, barring that, property damage against the ex. Make him cover Milo's medical expenses." On top of all of that, if she wasn't recording him when he said that, she's alive and you can see her when I trust you again, oof. That would have been amazing evidence to bring to the cops. That right there is a confession. That is a confession. Everything he said was disgusting, He saw you crying and said, you should just get over it, She's old anyway. She might as well be dead, It's probably best that she's dead because she's old. What the hell? What made him think that having the dog hostage would fix the relationship? What sick freaks are out there that do this? If they are around me, keep them away from me. I really hope that we get another update in the future saying that charges were brought against him and, he did face consequences for his actions. All the best, OP. Thank you for the story. Our next post is by user ThrowAwayMoveAway129, titled, "Would I be the asshole if I move out of our apartment knowing my fiancé and his mum can't afford it without me?" Me, female 29, and my ex, fiancé, male 27, have been living together for about 1.5 years. Fiancé got his undergraduate degree, worked for a couple of years, and then decided to get an MBA, which is how he ended up in our city. We moved in together after he finished his MBA program. Fiancé is from the Midwest, and his mum has always wanted him to move back. When he told her that he was staying here, she was heartbroken. I went to college and got my degree in a STEM field. After I graduated, I got a job with my current company and moved to the city where we currently live. It's a big international company with multiple locations in the US and international. I love my job, I like the company that I work for, and the pay's pretty good. All in all, a pretty good deal. During COVID, my office shut down and we all went to work from home. After COVID, they decided to not reopen this office, so I've been 100% work from home since early 2020. I currently make considerably more than him, mainly because I've been working for 7 years and I'm in tech. I had been living by myself in a 1-bedroom apartment and just had my office set up in the living room since it was just me. When we moved in together, we decided to get a 2-bedroom apartment so I could use the extra room as an office. Because of this, I was paying 2/3 of the rent and he paid 1/3. We split everything else 50-50. So the problem started this past May. Fiancé's mum told him that she wanted to move to our city to be closer to him. She asked if she could stay with us while she looked for a job and got settled. She's a teacher, so figured that she'd be able to get a teaching job pretty quickly. Because of that, I didn't really mind her staying with us, as I figured that it would just be for a couple of months over the summer. Since I thought it would only be for a couple of months, I moved my office into a corner of our bedroom, and my fiancé bought a bed to put in the second bedroom. The problem is that she never applied for any teaching positions and has been living with us for 6 months now. She and I have really been struggling with each other since she moved in. I can't make her understand that I work full-time. She constantly interrupts while I'm working, which is bad enough, but she even interrupts me when I'm on Teams calls. She always asks me to take her places because she doesn't like to drive in our city. She has pretty outdated views of gender roles and is constantly giving me a hard time for not doing more around the house and making my fiancé help with chores, do his own laundry, etc. The constant criticism and insults are really just wearing me down, and I hate having my office shoved in a corner of the bedroom. Back in September, I told my fiancé that since it looks like his mum is going to stay a while, that we should split the rent 3 ways. He told me she can't afford that since she has to conserve money until she gets a job. I told him that I wasn't happy paying extra for a bedroom that I can't use, so I finally said that we could do a 50-50 split. I could afford to pay the extra, but I hate the idea of funding her lifestyle. Every time I complain about her or the situation, he says he agrees, but doesn't know what to do because he can't kick out his mum, and he won't talk to her about the way that she treats me or how she behaves. When I ask what the long-term plan is, he just says he doesn't know. I've thought about giving him an ultimatum to tell her that she has to leave, but I think he would just end up resenting me for essentially putting his mum on the street. So one of my girlfriends is losing her roommate at the end of February. Our lease renews June 1st. I'm very strongly considering moving out of our current apartment and moving in with her. I can afford to pay my part of rent on our current apartment and also half the rent at my friend's apartment. It's not ideal, but I'm not a big spender, so it's doable. The issue is, if he and his mum aren't able to pay for the 1/3 the rent each, then there's no way that they could cover the whole thing on their own, but I can't live like this anymore. So I'm pretty sure that this is what I'll do, but I wanted to see if people thought that I'd be the asshole for leaving them like this. In the comments, John Redcorn Massage says, his mum is the biggest asshole because she specifically planned this. It isn't that she had bad luck, she didn't even apply. Add in that she didn't respect your workplace and insults you. She's basically trying to be the matriarch of the house while being a complete mooch. The biggest problem is your fiancé though. This is just a glimpse of your future with a mama's boy. He made it clear that he is okay with her walking all over you, and she is not leaving. You're going to end up as a third wheel in your own marriage. I agree. His mum's taking advantage, and your fiancé isn't setting boundaries. It's a big concern for the future. You deserve better, not the asshole. Exactly this. OP, you're not leaving them, you're escaping a situation that was never fair to you in the first place. His mum didn't just end up staying. She chose not to apply for jobs, and your fiance chose to let her. Meanwhile, you've been paying the majority of the rent, lost your office, and now you're stuck in your own home with someone who disrespects you daily. If he wanted to build a life with you, he would have had a plan for this months ago. Instead, you're the only one being asked to sacrifice. Time to choose yourself, because they already have. And be prepared for them to be upset because they are losing their money bags. They were using you and had absolutely no respect for you / neither one of them. If you don't leave, you will be the asshole. I'm a teacher, an old retired teacher. I could substitute teach every day this week if I wanted to do so. I still get requests to appoint / interview for both public school and private school jobs. Mother-in-law could work if she wanted to work. I'm in my late 60s and drive all over and in Mexico and Europe on vacation. She is needlessly helpless. Yeah, she is doing the weaponized incompetence thing, and he is allowing it to continue. I think you just get out of this. Who cares? He made a promise to you when entering a relationship with you and when choosing to start an engagement with you, and he has already broken that promise, and he's shown that his priorities lie with his mother, who he is more than happy to enable and put you down in order to continue enabling and making excuses for her. Leaving now is better than going through a divorce. It's better than having to deal with alimony, child support, therapy, any of the bullshit that comes with that mother-in-law. The mask has slipped. He's shown his ass. Take the warning for what it is and believe him when he's shown you who he is. Get out of there. Not the asshole. And now, onto the update, 5 days later. I posted here last week about the situation that I'm in, living with my soon-to-be ex-fiancé and his mum. I started off trying to reply to everyone's comments and keep up, but honestly I just got completely overwhelmed with all the comments. First off, I want to thank everyone for their feedback and comments, even the ones that were kind of harsh. Actually, probably especially the ones that were kind of harsh. I really needed some tough love to make me realize that I was letting my soon-to-be ex and his mum take advantage of me. The more comments I read, the more pissed I got. Honestly, I think I'm more pissed at myself for allowing this to happen and not advocating for myself more. This past weekend, I got my soon-to-be ex alone so we could talk, which was actually harder than I thought it should have been because his mum always tries to tag along when we do anything. Going through all the comments that everyone left and the PMs that people sent really helped me decide on how to approach this, and also brought up a lot of good questions that I should have thought of myself. Back to the discussion with the ex. I wanted to give him one more chance to pick us over his mum. Not because I thought he would, but I just wanted to be able to tell myself that I gave him the opportunity. I explained again about how unhappy I am with the situation, how it's affecting my work because of her constant interruptions, and just being unhappy and uncomfortable that I'm forced to work out of a corner in our bedroom. And I reminded him that until a few months ago, I was paying the majority of the rent, and being that I make so much more than him, it's really my salary that keeps us all afloat. And I also brought up again the way that she treats me and talks to me. And he replied the same way he has been. He agrees that it's not right how she acts, and that it's really uncomfortable for us all. What the hell? I don't care if she's uncomfortable. Previously, I would have dropped it there. But this time, I told him how angry and disappointed I was that he let me pay 2/3 of the rent when she first moved in, and how unfair it was that I'm still paying for half when there are 3 people living here and she's the only one with her own bedroom. It was the same story. She has to conserve money since she doesn't have any income currently. Which brought up the question of where all her stuff went when she moved. What money does she use for incidentals? So evidently, when she got divorced, she asked for the divorce after my ex went off to college. It doesn't sound like the husband or ex's dad wanted the divorce. His dad bought her out of the equity in their house. Ex didn't have any idea how much that was or how much is left. But until she moved here, she was working full-time as a teacher and living in a small apartment, so she shouldn't have had to tap into the divorce settlement money very much. Other than that, X didn't have much insight into her finances, other than what she'd told him. that she has to conserve money. I told him straight up that I'm moving out before the end of the month, and from now on, I'm only paying 25%. As some of the commenters pointed out, she has a whole bedroom while I have to share with a man-child, so she should have to pay twice as much, and after I move out, I'm not paying for anything else. No utilities, no food, nothing other than rent. I have a pretty good idea what his finances are like, and if he has to pay 75% of the rent all by himself, it's going to take a huge chunk of his net income. And after he pays utilities and buys groceries, there won't be anything left for incidentals. Rent was due on the 1st, but it's not late until after the 5th, so he has 2 days to come up with the money. If he doesn't come up with it, and I end up covering it, then I'll reduce the amount that I pay in the future months. The only reason that I'm going to keep paying any of the rent is even after I move out, I'm still on the hook. I talked at a leasing office, and they explained that since X and I signed a single rental agreement together, e.g., one contract we both signed as opposed to 2 contracts we sign individually, we are both responsible for the rent. They don't care about who actually pays as long as it gets paid. The only alternative would be if he agrees to sign a new lease by himself or together with his mum. But in all likelihood, he wouldn't be able to pass the credit check on his own, so I'm kind of stuck. I don't think he'll do anything stupid though, because he's going to need to find someplace to live after this, and a collection on his credit report wouldn't be good. I also told him that I'm going to find someplace to work during the day until I move so that she can't bother me. My friend I'm moving in with said that I could work there during the day since she and her current roommate have in-person 9-to-5s. I took her up on that for now. After living with his mum, I'm not about to overstay my welcome, so I'm gonna go find some other options so that I can rotate through. Someone suggested checking out the public library, or if it comes to it, I'll get a membership at one of those WeWork kind of places. And, just in case, I brought my important papers, files, and valuables, and my friend is storing them for me until I move in. He really didn't take it well. The surprising thing to me is that he was surprised by everything. He seemed really shocked that I wasn't prioritizing his mum. I really got the feeling that he sincerely believed that I wanted to take care of her as much as him, and he kept saying stuff like, "What about my mum? What am I gonna tell her? That's how she is, but we, still need to help her," etc. He asked about our relationship and the engagement. I told him after I move out, I need some space from him. In a few months, when we've both had some time and space to process what happened, if we both agree, we can talk about the relationship. But he'd have to prove that he's going to have my back going forward and will set boundaries with his mum. I told him that just to avoid more drama, but I don't see a future in which we are together. I told him he needs to tell his mum because she's not my responsibility or problem, and she'll know something's up when I start moving my stuff out. He hasn't told her what's going on yet, but this weekend I'm going to start moving things so that he doesn't have much time. My friend's current roommate starts a new job in another state on the 3rd, so in reality, I can probably move in 2 to 3 weeks, just depending on when she actually leaves. I don't expect him to do anything bad, other than sulk and complain, but if he does something stupid, or doesn't pay his part of the rent, the ace up my sleeve is I'll tell the leasing office his mum moved in, which is prohibited in the lease. Honestly, getting evicted would solve a lot of problems right now, so it's a pretty valid threat, I think. Now that I've mentally and emotionally separated myself from him and his mum, I'm looking forward to her reaction when he tells her what's going on. If it gets too ugly, I'll find a cheap Airbnb or hotel or something. I've had some friends, including the one that I'm moving in with, offer to let me couch surf for a few weeks, but I just can't do that to someone else. So that's it. I'm leaving, and I really don't care how that affects them. In the comments, Plant Princes says, "You're at the end of a long and painful process, but I'm sure that you'll be better for it. Good luck." Dude should really just marry his mum. Smiley Cat says, "Notify your landlord in writing that you are moving out and to take you off the lease after June 1st. You wouldn't want to do nothing and accidentally trigger an automatic renewal." And OP says, Already did that. I did it before I went to talk to the front office and confirmed that they received it while I was down there. Teflon says, "Ooh, I want to see the mum's face turn from delight that OP's gone to horror when she realized how much she was funding. Then when the ex sees mum suddenly able to find a job, now she's got rid of OP." Ex's mum is big on traditional gender roles, but not so much that she would say no to OP bankrolling her and her son. OP should double check the lease. Maybe it says no one besides the leaseholders can reside there. Maybe they'll all be kicked out for breaking the rules. Oh no! It sounds like OP has the money, so she should also check the cost to straight up break the lease. After her stuff is out, of course. I wouldn't be the slightest bit surprised if the ex was telling Mummy that he was making all the money and that OP just worked her silly little job for fun. Lol, why are they always shocked not everyone is a helpless little doormat like they are? But this one be like, what? You no love my mummy? My mummy not your number one? How can my mummy be a disrespectful mooch indefinitely without you? Like, dude. Yeah, and she doesn't say how old the mum is, but he's 27, and she had him within the typical 20s, early 30s range, so she's like 50 to 60-ish. Why does she think no longer working in your 50s is the only option, and why is he assuming he should already be her retirement option while she's still somewhat young old people-wise? She don't wanna. That's why. My mum did the same, except she never had a career. Just got fired or laid off or quit her dookie-ass job, and everything was supposed to work out by magic. Am I the asshole for trying to get my neighbors to not block my front door? I, 32 female, live in New York City. I recently moved into a small building, 3 stories, 6 apartments in total. My apartment is a ground floor unit. From move-in, a neighbor, 40 female and 40 male, has been storing their large stroller in front of my front door, which poses problems every time I have to come and go from my apartment. It is also against fire code and explicitly forbidden in the building's leases. The stroller is there every day unless their kid, 3 male, decides he doesn't want to walk. One day, when I heard them leaving it there, I introduced myself and politely said them leaving their stroller there was causing me issues, and it is against the city's fire code, and asked them to no longer keep their stroller in front of my front door. The 40 female neighbor gave me excuses that they live on the 3rd floor, but the 40 male neighbor straight up raised his voice at me while I was holding my infant daughter. The woman said, as a compromise, she would fold the stroller when leaving it in front of my door. As time went on, the stroller was never folded and continued to block my door. As it is against fire code and explicitly forbidden in the lease, I decided to reach out to property management for help resolving the issue. I just want to be able to safely come and go from my apartment. The day the property management enforced this on these neighbors, the 40 female rang my doorbell and proceeded to refuse to speak to me and called her mother. Her mother then berated me on speakerphone and said that I should have spoken to them first, ignoring me when I said I did. She then kind of threatened me, saying that I complained about the wrong people. I was stunned and couldn't believe this was happening. All I could muster was insisting that it's against fire code and that no one gets to break fire code. I am baffled by this behavior. I found it a bizarre confrontation, and I didn't know that adults could act this way. I've never had issues with neighbors before. I have a child younger than theirs and empathize with their situation, but their kid is massive and able to walk. They could just have an umbrella stroller like I do. I just wanted access to my front door. Am I the asshole? In the comments, Unfortunate Daring says, "Not the asshole. Why didn't you just close your door on these assholes? Just report them again for harassment to property management. Start videoing any interaction with them." OP says, 100% I was kicking myself for not recording it. It wasn't a long interaction, but it went on too long. I kept hoping that I could make it rational. I'd recommend to anyone recording interactions that you think might get pear-shaped. A Lost Amphibian says, "The stroller can go to the garage." Call the what? Police? Building inspector? Fire department? Whoever. I would have pushed it out the door as soon as they left. Nope, haven't seen it since you left. This It would have been out on the street the first time that it was in the way after having asked them not to leave it in front of my door. And the next time I saw them, I would very quickly have said, "Thank you for not leaving the stroller in the way. I appreciate it," and then ducked into my apartment very quickly. Not the asshole. Getting the mum on the phone tells you all you need to know about the maturity of a 40-year-old person. Yeah, this 40 female neighbor rang my doorbell and proceeded to refuse to speak to me and called her mother, made it very clear that at 40 years old, she is still very immature. Yeah, I'm with everyone else here on this one. I don't think it's gonna do anything quoting the fire code and making threats like that when she's not a mature person, she's not a serious person. If it were me in this situation and asking them to take the stroller away from your front door did not work the first time, that stroller would not be anywhere near the building anymore. It'd be dumped in a dumpster kilometers away from my apartment building, and I don't know, I haven't seen anything. I've just been working this whole time. I don't know what you're talking about. What stroller? I've never seen a stroller in my life. Am I free to go? Is there any more questions? All right, thank you very much. Have a good day. That's how I'd deal with this situation, not the arsehole OP. Back up to the post, there is an edit. I appreciate the outside perspective. I didn't think I was the arsehole, but I do have hardcore people-pleasing tendencies, and it was very clear that my actions hurt people's feelings, and it gave me self-doubt. The reason that I engaged with the mother on the phone at all is bizarre too. It's all just too weird, and I'm reeling a little. The 40 female neighbor has an unusual way of speaking. I haven't been able to work out if it is an accent or what, and when she put the mother on speakerphone, I had a sinking thought that maybe the 40 female neighbor is deaf and needs someone to talk for her, and I felt bad that maybe I'd made a deaf person feel victimized when they can't speak up for themselves. But, she clearly wasn't deaf. Her mother was just on speakerphone with no video, and she had zero issues following the conversation. Apart from this incident and the other shitty neighbor stuff this woman and her man have pulled, they seem like normal, functional adults. The man does not have an unusual way of speaking. I don't think her unusual way of speaking is really a factor in whether I'm the asshole, and I've been so eager to be polite and respectful. It became very clear the phone call wasn't really about helping in communication, but just messy people expressing their anger as much as possible. But yeah, that's why I let the phone call happen. Messy. And now, onto the update. So it's almost been a month, and I'm pleased to say the stroller has not been in front of my door since the events in my original post. Luckily, I have not run into them in the hallways or experienced real fallout. I heard the man a couple of times tell his kid, "That's where the snitches live." And I think the mother from the phone call was in the building once, and I heard her call me a bitch outside my door. The woman neighbor also stuck her middle finger up at my front door a few times, and that petty behavior stopped pretty quickly. They seem to have gotten over themselves. I'm not bothered by their silly little insults. The neighbors also started using an umbrella stroller pretty soon after my original post. I'm glad they finally have taken responsibility for their own belongings and use a little bit of troubleshooting to work their problems out. I didn't end up putting up a video doorbell as commenters suggested on the original post. I don't think I had to, as it turns out. They just needed to get over themselves and get a handle on their emotions. I am actively avoiding them though, but that has been easy so far. So yeah, a bit of a boring update, but that's the best outcome. I'm just enjoying having space to come and go from my apartment. In the comments, Cybin asks, Info. I'm having trouble reconciling these two statements. 1. The woman neighbor also stuck her middle finger up at my front door a few times. And 2. I didn't end up putting up a video doorbell. Without video, how would you know someone's flipping off your door? Hobnob replies, Peephole? And OP replies, Haha, yep. I didn't have the camera, so I watched through the peephole. Bit of a creeper move, but I was feeling the paranoia. And Opal replies, You really should get a security camera. People like this will eventually become enraged about something new. You've already been marked as a target, and it'll take even less to set them off now. Protect yourself, protect your child, and get the camera. Ray186 says, I'm still thinking, what stroller was the correct answer? Can't get by the stroller? Running it over with a car a couple of times should give everyone plenty of space. I'm just gonna say from experience with jerk neighbors, don't expect the peace to last. People like that tend to fall back into their old patterns. At least it's quiet for now. Hopefully it lasts for you. Glad to hear they aren't blocking your door. I had neighbors who used to leave all sorts of junk in front of my door. One day, I came home with 2 big armfuls of groceries, only to find my front door blocked by their massive pool floats, which they're not allowed to have those, and a leaking garbage bag, and the dumpster was 20 feet from the stairs. I just snapped, tossing all the pool floats down the stairs, and then kicked the garbage bag, causing it to spill all over their doormat. Never had a problem with them afterwards. Yeah, I mean, like, take these kind of situations with a grain of salt, right? You can go full don't mess with me mode on people, and they can get a wake-up call from it, but do you want to take the chance as well that you're upsetting psychos, and those psychos are going to take the full force of their deranged minds into their own hands? I don't know, maybe the fantasy land of me being like, what stroller? Never saw a stroller in my life. Maybe that would end up getting me assaulted if I were to do something like that in real life. Because psychos are gonna psycho. And that's just how life is. I'm glad that OP was as non-confrontational as possible, but I do think they should take the word of advice from these comments and get a security camera just in case. 99% of the time, you don't need it. But that 1%, if you don't have the security camera, you're gonna be kicking yourself for not having it. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for the story, OP. Very cool. Our next post is by user Daughter Party Throw, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for refusing to take my daughter to her birthday party?" So my 33 female daughter Cleo, 5 years old, hates pink. She has disliked the color and almost everything to do with it since she was about 3 or so. She has one pink shirt that she likes and one pink stuffed animal, and that's it. My father's partner, Prue, refuses to accept that Cleo doesn't like pink. Over the years, she's made several attempts to push the color onto her. Pretty much every gift she's ever been given was some shade of pink, no matter how many times I tell her to stop. She's tried to give me dozens of different reasons why I should encourage my daughter to try different shades. It clearly upsets Cleo, but Prue keeps doing it. About a week ago, my father invited me, my husband, and our children for dinner at his place. He said that he and Prue had a surprise for the kids. Right before we left home, my younger sister, who still lives with our family, texted me. She warned me that the surprise was actually a small birthday party that Prue had planned for Cleo. That alone threw me off, because my daughter's birthday was in November. My father did miss her actual birthday party due to work, but still. Also, my son turns 9 in March, so I'd figured that this would be the next party that we would have. Then she sent me photos of how the place was decorated, and it very clearly wasn't actually meant for Cleo. Literally every piece of decor was pink. The table, the tableware, the balloons, everything. She'd gotten pink banners and glued pink foil fringe curtains on the doors. Even the cake was pink. I showed everything to my husband, and we agreed not to take the kids there. I texted my father the following saying, "Hey, sister told me everything. We're not coming. We're taking the kids to Macca's and telling them that that was your surprise. You and Prue can come if you want. We are paying." We did exactly that. My father did show up without Prue, but he was cold with us and left 20 minutes after arriving. Both him and Prue are pissed. My father is angry that my husband and I dismissed his partner's heartfelt gesture towards our daughter. Prue also told me that I'm the reason Cleo is restrictive. I also don't like pink, and that I'm raising her to be an ungrateful, spoiled brat who is unwilling to compromise. To be honest, I get how I could be in the wrong here, but at the same time, this just felt like Prue trying to push something Cleo doesn't like onto her yet again. My sister and one of my brothers are on my side, though my sister did say that I had been rude. My other brother is on the fence. Am I the asshole? Edit. My daughter doesn't know that I dislike pink, nor would I care if she did like it. In the comments, Had McDonald's for Dinner says, "Not the asshole. You handled it well and avoided the worst. You were not rude, so much is clear that you would not let Prue manipulate you and your daughter. Your father is the weakest link here. He should be reeling in Prue's pink obsession, not encouraging it. Tell your father and Prue that there are things more important than the color pink in this world, and that if they cannot stop giving pink to your daughter, then they should stop giving, period. OP replies, "My father never understood that I didn't like pink either. In his case, I think it was more of a memory thing. He had the habit of getting me the same essentials as my sister, who did like pink." Crow replies, "No, it's not just memory. He doesn't care. If he cares enough, he will remember." And OP replies, "Probably. He genuinely has an awful memory, and has since I was a kid, so I feel the need to give him the benefit of the doubt." And Togar Sucks replies, "The coincidence of his and Prue's similar emphasis on color schemes is very telling. Your father, and I assume Prue's, generation, are known for a lack of empathy and respect, especially with people younger than them. I'm guessing it's a combination of I know better and should get my way, even when it comes to someone else's preferences at their own birthday, and Prue wanting to experience raising her own little girl, which she seems to have missed out on. Not the asshole." TinyD71 says, "I'm not sure that Prue's efforts were a heartfelt gesture. Her insistence on pink seems to be about Prue more than Cleo. Does Prue have children of her own? I would think that most people who have had some exposure to children know that they go through phases of liking, loving, or disliking things, and that you can't really force things on them if they don't like them. Your father and Prue really aren't hearing you and Cleo. The party wasn't for Cleo, so not attending doesn't seem any worse than throwing a party for someone when you know they'll hate it. Not the asshole." OP replies, "Prue doesn't have kids. She does have some experience with children, but mostly through mine and her friends. She has never babysat my kids, and I don't know whether she's ever been responsible for any other children." Out of curiosity, how old is Prue? OP says, "I keep forgetting the year that she was born. She's either 46 or 47. You're not the asshole. You feel like something is being forced on your daughter. Your mum instincts are to protect. But here's where I challenge you a bit. In this case, you were protecting her from a birthday party that was in an unfavorable color. We have become so safe in this world that we choose mundane situations to take a stand. She's 46 without kids and put together a party. She is absolutely trying to live vicariously through your children, and it's your decision on what you want to allow her to do. It is immature of her to continually make the gifts and parties geared towards her love for pink, but maybe there is a compromise in there for the family's sake. Because is this worth putting a rift between you and your dad, and Prue for that matter? You can apologize for hurting her feelings, if that feels appropriate, but in the same conversation, talk about what their relationship can look like. It does sound like she means well, even if she's being selfish about it." Yeah, this does seem like a relatively mundane situation, and I'm willing to give Prue the benefit of the doubt as well. I think this is a fairly low-stakes situation where you can come to a compromise with Prue. You can extend an olive branch and apologize for hurting her feelings, again, like they said, if that feels appropriate, and you can also clearly communicate and set healthy boundaries with Prue so that this doesn't continue into the future, and you can put it on your father as well to be responsible enough to take initiative and help make sure that those boundaries do not get crossed. These people do not sound evil. They don't really sound particularly malicious. It just seems like petty drama that they're trying to start, and that it's not impossible to walk back from this. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, and it's completely okay. You are the mother here. You decide what you want to do. If you feel as though this is indicative of further damage that Prue could do to your daughter by enforcing, feminine stereotypes, gender standards on them that could escalate into abusive situations like we have seen in the past, it's okay to pull back from Prue and your father as well. We don't know the full story here. We don't know what particularly is going on behind closed doors over there. And, you're not the asshole for however you decide to combat this one, especially refusing to take her to that party. That sets a precedent. I will say, though, a birthday party 2 months late, very bizarre behavior coming from Prue. That's a little bit of a red flag myself. And now, onto the first update, titled For Clarification. Hey guys, I ended up leaving a lot of comments on my Am I the Arsehole post, many of which say the same things over and over, because I don't think it will be easy to read them all, and because many of you were quick to make inaccurate assumptions about me and my family. I'm writing this to clarify some things. Cleo and Prue are both fake names. We are not American. Prue is 46 years old. I don't call her my stepmother because she's only 13 years older than me. Also, she's not married to my father, but they've been together for 12 years. I have nothing against her, we're just not close. Cleo's interests are pretty balanced. She likes princesses, cars, robots, and dolls. She loves science and outer space. She does ballet and loves it too. She's the only girl in her ballet class who wears black. Her teacher calls her Black Swan. She's not a girly girl, but I wouldn't call her a tomboy either. She's just a kid who hates pink. Cleo's favorite colors are yellow and blue. Though I understand the assumption that Cleo dislikes pink because of me, that's not the case. I hate pink, but I'm not disgusted by it. I wear pink clothing around my children, and I occasionally dressed Cleo in pink as a baby. I own pink stuff and buy it for myself. My kids don't know that I don't like pink. They've chosen pink gifts for me in the past, and according to my son, I love all colors. My father and Prue know it because I've disliked pink since long before I had children. There's plenty of stuff that I hate that my kids like and vice versa. They don't have to care about these things, so I don't tell them. Cleo's more boyish tastes also annoy Prue. Not as much as the pink thing, but enough that my husband and I know. Cleo's birthday party last November was themed after Super Mario Bros., and Prue actually asked me why I was allowing that. Cleo is open about hating pink. She has expressed that to Prue several times, specifically because she keeps pushing it. Both my kids are polite. Whenever Prue gives my daughter something pink, Cleo thanks her. She'll sometimes ask Prue if she can give something yellow next time. And she doesn't act as excited as she gets when other people give her something that she actually likes, but that's it. We let Cleo choose which of her gifts she wants to exchange. She always asks to exchange pink stuff. If it can't be exchanged, she won't play with it or wear it. We either give those away to her friends or donate them to charity. Cleo does have friends who like pink, and her best friend loves it and wouldn't complain if they threw pink parties for themselves. She would know that those aren't about her, but the second you made it about her, aka threw her a pink party, then she would be upset. Cleo would have loathed the party. She would have started crying immediately. She wouldn't have eaten the cake, and she wouldn't have had fun. I didn't tell Cleo about the party for a number of reasons. Most importantly, I didn't want her to get upset. I also knew that letting her see it would ruin my father's image in her eyes. Cleo is already upset that Prue doesn't care about what she likes, and I didn't want to get frustrated at her grandfather too. Yes, my daughter does in fact hate pink. Yes, I'm very well aware that that might change someday. No, I wouldn't care if it did. That's all I wanted to say here. Feel free to ask me any other questions that you may have. In the comments, Sorted into Slytherin says, "It's pretty shitty that Prue is so fixated on gender norms that she's willing to sacrifice a relationship with Cleo to win some invisible war that only she wants to fight." And OP replies, "If she actually cared about Cleo's interests, she'd know my daughter might actually be more girly than me. She doesn't see the little girl who loves ballet and was Princess Jasmine for Halloween. She sees the girl who hates pink and has lightsaber fights with her brother. My daughter is so much more than a girl who hates pink. If Prue can't see that, then it's her loss." And now, onto the latest update. First of all, I apologized to my sister a few hours after I made my original post. I'm very grateful for what she did, but I'll do my best to keep her away from these conflicts moving forward. Thank you to those who defended her. Secondly, I went through your comments with my husband, and our main takeaway was that we did what we had to do to protect Cleo, even if it wasn't what we'd do in most circumstances. Had either of us been surprised with a party decorated with something that we openly hated, we would have sucked it up and ignored it. It sucks, but we're adults, and it comes with the territory. Cleo, however, is 5 years old. She wouldn't deal with this the same way, nor would we expect her to. Knowing my daughter, she would have been miserable at the party, so ultimately we don't regret not taking her there. On Saturday, we took the kids to spend the afternoon at my brother's place with their cousins. In the meantime, we invited my father and Prue over to talk. My husband and I told them that we wanted them to abide by the following. 1. No more surprise parties without our knowledge and approval. 2. No more pushing the color pink onto Cleo, including pink gifts. And 3. No more calling our children spoiled for being allowed to dislike something. If they didn't agree to our terms, we would no longer take the kids to their place, and there would be a good chance that we'd lower our contact with them in the future. Prue didn't say anything at first. My father tried to argue that we should at least thank her for the party, but I said no. I told them that the problem wasn't that Prue threw a party for our daughter that was dedicated to her own interests, it was that she specifically chose something that she knows my daughter hates and centered everything around it. We wouldn't thank her, and we wouldn't apologize. That's when Prue chimed in. She tried to tell us that we were raising our daughter to be a brat again. So I asked, "Why are you so insistent on pink?" She didn't answer at first, but then said that she knew that Cleo did love pink, she just didn't know it yet. And to that I asked, "Would you be this pushy if it was about any other color?" Prue tried to say that that didn't matter, but when my husband asked her if she would care if Cleo hated blue, she said she doesn't need to like blue. He replied that she didn't need to like pink either. He told Prue that she had no right to decide what Cleo should and shouldn't like. Cleo hates pink, and if she can't be an adult and respect that, then she doesn't need to be around our children. In the end, my father and Prue agreed to our terms. I'm not confident about her, but I did speak to my father. I said I know that he has a hard time saying no to Prue, but he will ruin this relationship with me and my children if he keeps enabling his partner. My father promised that he wouldn't let this happen again. I hope this works out. Cleo is a great kid, and I hope my father and Prue can finally start seeing that. Thank you all for everything. In the comments, my Ask Reddit account says, yeah, she's 100% buying her more pink shit. She's not gonna drop it. There's no way Prue is dropping this. To even throw the party in the first place shows that she cares not for Cleo's feelings, but only for herself, as she basically showed with throwing the party in the first place. Still not the asshole OP, but you definitely need to lessen contact with Prue. And OP replies, I don't think she's dropping it either. My sister told me that from what she saw, the party was entirely Prue's idea. When she started getting pink stuff for the decorations, both my sister and my father tried to remind her that Cleo didn't like pink. Prue barely acknowledged them, and my father eventually stopped arguing, which was why my sister sent me the pictures. Your father is enabling her behavior. You need to tell him that your daughter's wants and needs take precedence over that of a grown woman with selective hearing. And OP replies, I wouldn't be surprised if we had to either stop visiting or lower contact with them in the near future. I don't trust my father as much as I wish I did, but I've warned him. If he cares about what his granddaughter thinks of him, he will listen, and if not, we will learn. Wannabe Kiwi says, I wouldn't allow my daughter to be alone with her. Who knows what venom she could spew in her ear. No one will like you if you like blue and space. People only like proper girls. What you want in like doesn't matter. When a grown-up wants you to do something, you have to do it, otherwise you're a bad girl. The damage could be real. OP replies, I don't trust Prue to babysit for a number of reasons, but that is exactly what I'm worried about. Prue is teaching your daughter to not be able to say no. That alone is a scary thought, and yes, I'm gonna be dark because it's important. That kind of bullshittery won't be the sole reason, but it'll definitely be a factor. Narrator, it was in fact not over. And OP replies, oh yeah, I don't trust her at all. I've warned my father what will happen if he doesn't stand up to her, but I wouldn't be surprised if Prue tries something again. At least my siblings are on my side. You know, I kind of had suspicions there at the end of the first post that this is what it would escalate into, and it's good that OP is acknowledging that, at least in this final update so far. I genuinely believe Prue's going to do it again, and that the dad is an enabler and doesn't care. I know you, OP, have already warned your father what will happen if he doesn't stand up to her, but do you trust him to stand up to her? Do you really think he's going to do anything? Or is he just going to sit idly by while Prue abuses your children? How much damage does Prue have to do to these kids before you go no contact with them? Before you stop whatever abuse Prue can and will do to these children? This is genuinely a very serious, turning point in your children's development. And if they look back at this point in time and realize that you knew Prue was doing this to them and allowed it to continue, you're not going to have a good relationship with your children in the future. They're not going to forgive you for doing this to them willingly when you knew that you could have cut off all contact and stopped abuse from occurring. So I urge you to do something more than you have done so far, OP. It's very much not a laughing matter. This is not petty drama like I thought it might be. This is very much high stakes. Good luck. Am I the asshole if I decide to contact my estranged son? So I'm a 42-year-old dad, and I have a wife. Let's call her Amanda. We have 2 sons together. Let's call them Wyatt, 20 years old, and William, 18. The thing is, since my oldest turned 18, we've been no contact. To make it simple, on his 18th birthday, we had planned a party, but when we got home, he was nowhere to be found. Most of his stuff was gone. My son moved out at 18, we didn't know why, and it's been 2 years. He's blocked us all, even his little brother, whom he was so close to just the day before leaving. It's tearing the family apart, and Amanda still cries herself to sleep sometimes. William is a shell of himself, and so am I. He isn't staying at extended family's houses, so until now, we really had no clue where he was. But last night, I was at a restaurant with co-workers when I saw one of his high school friends. We started talking about it, and he saw how desperate and heartbroken I was still 2 years after, and I guess out of guilt, he actually told me what happened. Basically, we're from Idaho, and he moved to Seattle for a fresh start. Apparently, my son is gay, and he preferred to cut contact with us instead of coming out to us, and then supposedly being disowned. He apparently said that he believed that we would prefer to have no son at all than a gay son. And I understand where he's coming from. Living in a small town in Idaho where everyone knows each other and goes to church, I can get why someone like him would be so scared to be true to himself here. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't care. It was a shock, for sure, a hard pillow to swallow, and I've even showed homophobic behavior before. But when it comes to Wyatt, I realized I just don't care. I just want him to be happy. I just want my son back. I spent the whole day trying to find his Instagram, and I actually did. I want to tell him how much I love him, and that I don't care. But I don't know if he would like that. He left for a reason. Am I the asshole if I contact him? Also, I didn't tell my wife, William, or anyone else. Should I? In the comments, sadly, you're the asshole. Why would you think your son would feel comfortable coming out to you if you have been homophobic before? And I have news for you. Being homophobic, but not when it applies to your son, makes you even worse in my eyes. Anyone who feels fine hating on somebody else's child, but changing your tune when it's your own, speaks to your lack of character. Your son left hoping for a better life. Leave him alone and hope he has found it. If he ever wants to contact you again, let it be his decision. I think you should tell your wife and your other son. William should know why his brother left, so he doesn't feel any guilt about it. And OP replies, "Thanks for the harsh but necessary truth. I will work on myself. This whole ordeal has made me realize what kind of person I am, and I don't like it. Also, I will tell my wife and son tonight." OP responds to multiple comments on needing to do better for his estranged son, saying, "I'm willing to change for my son because I love him so much. I believe that his decision made me realize how much I failed as a dad, and I owe him this. I'm truly ashamed he felt that he had to cut contact to be himself. So yes, I will accept him. Thanks so much." Another commenter says, "So here's the thing. You created an environment where your child did not feel safe. In fact, he felt so unsafe that he left without even a whisper. That speaks volumes to me. But then you literally cyberstalked him to find him on Instagram. Do you honestly believe that this will make him feel safe? It won't, trust me. My advice: if you truly want to change your ways, start by volunteering for causes like Trevor Project or something similar in your area. Start becoming involved and making a true difference in the world so other kids can have a safe space when their own parents reject them. If your church teaches homophobia, stop attending that church and find one that is inclusive. They do exist, believe it or not. Basically, I'm telling you to start working on the man in the mirror and be the change that your son would be proud of. Until you do that, you have no hope of reconciling with your son. Do not contact him. Let his friend know that you would like to speak with him, but let him make the first move. Do better. And a final commenter says, "You're the asshole for having made homophobic comments in front of your gay son, which ultimately made him feel unacceptable to you. But I do feel if you're truly ready to accept and love the man he is, then some effort to heal the divide between you is in order. That said, you have to be willing and to be able to accept him, not just be nice at first and then try to change him. He clearly left because he knew that you would harangue him for this. I have a gay grandson. Sadly, for religious reasons, his parents do not accept him. It was a very painful journey for him, but he's worked through this, and now he totally rejects his parents. It's a mess, but I can tell you that my gay grandson is one of the finest persons you could ever find, and that, to me, is what matters in the measure of a man. Don't bother to try to reconnect unless you can truly stand up for him and accept him. He left, I'd suspect, because he could not count on you for this kind of treatment. To answer your specific question, not the asshole for wanting to reconnect with your estranged son if you can do so with an open heart and mind." I agree with that, but I don't think OP should be the one to do it. Like the second commenter here said, I would put feelers out with the friends and say that you would like to speak with him and you would like to show that you are capable and willing of making complete cultural changes and making complete and honest personal changes. That's not something that's easy to do, and I would say if you're not honest with yourself in that you can make those changes, you shouldn't reach out to him, you shouldn't reach out to the friends, and you should let sleeping dogs lie. You know? He left for a reason. And if you go and shake the hornet's nest, don't be upset when you get stung. And now, onto the update 2 days later. Hello everyone. I posted days ago about my oldest son Wyatt, who moved out at 18 because he was gay and scared of rejection. Your response was overwhelming. As harsh as it was, the truth was necessary. As you advised, I decided not to contact him yet. I've decided to make efforts to prove to him that I've changed when I do contact him, but I also decided to tell my wife and my other son, William. So I sat them down and told them what I told you guys, how I met one of Wyatt's friends when I was out, and how he told me everything about Wyatt, and how much we should love and support him regardless of who he is, etc. And that's when the shocking news came. William already knew everything. Apparently 6 months after he left, Wyatt called William and told him everything. William didn't tell me much about what was said, but I know that they kept in contact. They text on a daily basis, and that Wyatt asked him not to tell anything to us. William, always loyal, did just that. Long story short, my wife was crying because she didn't realize how awful she had been acting, and William ended up texting Wyatt to tell him that we knew somehow and that we loved him no matter what. Then Wyatt called me later, and while it was awkward at first, it quickly got better as we were catching up to life. That he was struggling with student loans, but that he was still doing great. I offered him money for his tuition, and he said, "I'll think about it." We talked a lot more. It was mainly my wife and I apologizing and telling him how much we love him no matter what, and that we're proud of him, that we are willing to change for him. He said he will be calling us in a few days, and he will maybe visit this weekend. I genuinely didn't expect things to go this way, and I realize I'm so lucky that he's even willing to talk to me. I swear I'll make it right and love him no matter what. In the comments, "You and your wife are really lucky that he'll even talk to you. I can only imagine what he heard over the years from you two to make him leave the way that he did. And OP says, I am well aware of this chance and extremely grateful for it. I will make it up to him no matter what. Another commenter says, well done. A tip. I know you offered money to help out, but right now it can come across as buying forgiveness or bribing him. If you do want to help him financially, it's important that you clearly communicate and stick to that there are no strings or conditions attached. If you give him money and then bring it up when he doesn't visit often enough or doesn't forgive you fast enough, then you've poisoned the well twice over. Let him know that you want to help, but understand that it's not a fast ticket to his good graces and that you won't push it. And OP says, thanks for the advice. And another commenter says, you're doing exactly what a good parent should. Taking responsibility, owning your mistakes, and showing unconditional love. The fact that Wyatt is open to reconnecting speaks volumes about his love for you too, despite everything. It's amazing that William maintained that bond with his brother and that your family is taking steps to rebuild trust and create a more supportive dynamic. Keep showing up for Wyatt. Words are a great start, but actions will show that you truly mean it. Wishing your family the best as you move forward together. Drumming Chopsticks says, I wish people wouldn't post to Am I the Arsehole for this stuff. There are so many better subs where actual gay people who went through being disowned could have replied. I was disowned, totally homeless at 17. My mum told me that I'd die of AIDS and kicked me out. If my mum had a moment of clarity and realized her love for me outweighed her homophobia, I would have given anything to have heard that. I wouldn't need her to volunteer with Trevor Project or other organizations. I want her to hold space and talk to me. I'm glad that OP had a positive outcome, and especially hopeful that Wyatt is getting something from reconnecting. Yeah, it was disheartening to see people actively discouraging him from contacting his son. What person doesn't want their parents to go, I'm sorry for my behavior, I'll do better, I love you, and I'm proud of you? That is so healing. I think it's a hard situation to judge, and I think there's always a thin line here. And I'm glad that it ended the way that it did, but I think it could have gone so badly. Like, that friend that outed Wyatt wasn't a good person, I don't think. I know it ended well, but I don't agree with that friend outing Wyatt. He knew that Wyatt's home life was bad enough to leave without a note and still told the parents private information, and enough so that they were able to find Wyatt online. If OP wasn't willing to change, and OP wasn't a good person like they turned out to be in this situation, that would have been really bad for Wyatt. I think criticism and pointing out bad behavior is all well and good, but those that say, no, screw you, you messed up, you're a terrible person, stay in your lane, never contact him, those people that say that, I don't agree with that. I do agree with the not contacting him directly, sorting it out through the brother, sorting it out through the friend, as did happen in this situation, and going from there, and working with what you can. I don't know, I'm rambling. I hope that made sense. Thank you for the story, OP. I hope you continue advocating for your son and fixing whatever was broken between you two. Our next post is by user ThrowRA London Mum, titled, I, female 44, hired an investigator and have discovered my husband's, male 47, affair and sex addiction. What on earth do I do? So my husband and I have been married for just over a decade, and it's been, for the most part, a loving marriage centered around our two beautiful children. Of course, I've had grievances. He travels a lot for work and is constantly glued to his phone, and sometimes would abruptly pop out for errands that he has always been incredibly vague about. Initially, these didn't concern me too much. He has a very demanding job that has allowed us to have a lifestyle that I never thought possible, meant that I could leave work to be with the children, take us on wonderful holidays, send the children to a great school. I always felt that complaining to him about his work, phone, computer, and random emergencies would be so selfish considering everything that he does for us. However, 2 weeks ago, I started getting really suspicious after I found a condom in the inside pocket of his blazer. There was no reason for him to have it there, as we only ever have sex at home, and frankly, it isn't something we do as often as we used to. This prompted me to do something that I never thought I would do, but I found an opportunity to get into his phone when he wasn't looking. I'm not sure what I was looking for. I first looked at his photos, but couldn't find anything. Then I thought I would check his messaging apps, WhatsApp, Telegram, and both were password locked, which I found very odd. Only iMessage could be accessed, but there was barely anything there. At this point, I had a sinking feeling that something was up. Last year, a friend was in a similar situation and used a digital investigator to learn more about her absent and secretive fiancé. The investigator found out that this man had been living a complete double life with a long-term girlfriend in Edinburgh and, unbelievably, a whole business he had set up and was earning money from. She had no idea about the business or all the money that he was earning from it, and no doubt spending on his girlfriend. I asked for the investigator's details and requested that they pull together anything and everything they could find about my husband. The investigator spent about a week digging online and came back to me with a report that changed my life forever. I got a call from the investigator warning me that my husband's report would be a very difficult read and that I should open it in private at a time where I would be able to fully process it. Since I received it, I have barely been able to sleep, eat, properly take care of the kids, or speak to him, and yet he is so absent-minded that he doesn't even realize something is wrong. It turns out that my husband of over 10 years has been 1. Having an affair with a woman 15 years his junior, 2. Financing this woman's lifestyle and her failed business venture, 3. Attending sex parties with her where they have sex with other partners, 4. Posting in a revolting online sex forum, including pictures of his genitals and details his addiction to porn and escorts to his creepy online friends, and 5. Based on his posts online, has clearly been spending thousands on escorts as far back as 7 years ago. I have no idea where to go from here. I don't know what to do. I have no idea how to confront him about this or if I should see a lawyer first. I know the obvious decision is to simply divorce, but our children are 9 and 7. I have loved him since we first met 14 years ago, and I know that I have a place in his heart too, in spite of these actions. If he is truly an addict, then maybe there's a way to get through to this if he agrees to treatment. I am a complete mess, and I can't talk about this to anyone in person just yet. Any advice you have for me would be really appreciated. In the comments, Lara Leon says, "Therapy will not work because he clearly is reveling in his addiction and secretive lifestyle, and he shows little remorse for it. Escorts, sex parties, and financing a mistress is way too far. That man does not love you. You're a live-in caretaker for his children and home that he can occasionally have sex with too. Lawyer up, protect your own finances and lifestyle, and your children's future." Buddy Inevitable 638 says, 1. Talk to a lawyer before you do anything. 2. Know this is not something that will be fixed or cured via therapy. Therapy only works if the person does the work. It isn't a magical cure that resolves giant issues just because you schedule an appointment and show up. The reality is that you have been married to someone who is capable and willing to lie to your face systematically. Therapy doesn't just fix that. In fact, if he has a personality disorder, which I suspect based on your post about his behavior, he likely will never change. 3. Do more research into pathological love relationships. Briefly, ask yourself these questions. Does he have difficulties with empathy, egotism, and exploitativeness? Aggrandized sense of self, distorted perceptions of self and others, self-serving, boundary violations, blame-shifting, low remorse, low accountability, motivated by power, control, or personal gain. Just a brief place to start exploring who you are actually married to. And 4, talk to a lawyer and therapist before doing anything. Someone who specializes in pathological love relationships, ideally. Man, the divorce is gonna go crazy in this one. I hope OP takes him for everything he's worth and completely drags him online. He deserves that. I obviously am no, expert in divorces, and that could lead to parental alienation, so Don't take my advice, I am not an expert. But he really deserves the worst for everything he's done. Opie, I hope you listen to these comments and take their advice for this one. Please. And now, on to the update, 6 weeks later. This is an update to my original post from around a month ago. Firstly, I'd like to thank almost every single one of you who has commented to leave me advice or message me privately. I took a lot of advice on board, especially legally speaking, and this has proven to be of great benefit. I apologize for my long absence and lack of replies. I hope the update below can explain it. So I chose to wait until after New Year's, as I didn't want to rob the children of one last Christmas and New Year's holiday as a family. In the meantime, I researched solicitors and sought recommendations from trusted friends. Rather humiliatingly, I did, after much urging on this website, also schedule and go through with an STI test. It was horrifically embarrassing, but I'm relieved to say that it came negative. I don't know how I could have coped if he had gotten me sick because of his revolting actions. He made my job incredibly easy by flying out for a work trip, not that anything he says could ever be trusted, on the 2nd, and I immediately got the ball rolling. Met with a solicitor, packed up all of his belongings into 6 suitcases, had the locks changed, and spoke to a child psychologist to work out the best way to explain things to the kids, who are far too young to understand the full picture, of course. Fast forward to a week later, and upon his return, I, having made sure the children were picked up by my mother after school, greeted him to a hallway full of suitcases and divorce papers. I had printed out the report in full and started walking him through it before he started breaking down in tears. It was a compulsion, quote-unquote. He was unbelievably stressed, and that if I let him, he would have no choice but to marry the other woman, whereas he would immediately end it if I were to take him back. This last part was truly the nail in the coffin. I don't think he even realized just how manipulative a comment that was to make. After hours of back and forth, and of his groveling, he gave up. He was left at the bottom of the stairs in the entrance to our home, with his suitcases, waiting for a cab to take him to God knows where. There is still a lengthy legal process ahead, and unfortunately, it turns out that him being unfaithful, etc., doesn't really impact how assets might be divided following the legal battle. However, I'm confident that my solicitor will get the outcome that I need to keep the house and to live independently. In terms of the children, I would rather not discuss them so as to keep it private, but it's been an incredibly difficult adjustment, and sometimes I do feel guilty. As for myself, I'm still completely heartbroken, and frankly, I don't ever hope to find love again. I just don't think I can quite trust like that again. Finally, I'd just like to add that while most comments have been lovely and supportive, I did get a number of comments and private messages blaming me for my soon-to-be ex-husband's behavior, claiming that I didn't give him sufficient sexual attention, and that I shouldn't complain because he provided me with a certain lifestyle. Firstly, these comments are awful and betray a repulsive worldview with regards to sex, intimacy, and marriage. Secondly, our ailing sex life was not my doing, and was at times, and criticism that I myself had of our relationship, not the other way around. Thirdly, just because someone provides you with a lifestyle doesn't entitle them to treat you as if you were nothing, with no respect and no honesty. I would have hoped that all would have been aware of that. In the comments, A. Mahi says, "If I left him, he would have no choice but to marry the other woman." That man had the audacity, and a lot of it, to say some shit like that. Yeah, I lolled at that one. Probably one of the dumbest comments I can imagine someone making in that situation. Okay, I'm tossing you out. I really don't care what you do and with whom. Financials? We're going to the court to make sure you're effing paying whatever you do. So what? I had an ex say something similar to this before when I was dumping him. You wanted me to show you I care, right? Despite cheating on you multiple times, if you take me back, I won't cheat again. I'll leave all those other girls. But if we break up, I have to explain myself to everyone. What will my mum think? I've never deadpanned so hard in my life. Quite literally speechless. I know her ex's type. After divorce, he will 100% abandon his kids, blame OP, and will never have a stable relationship. My significant other's former uncle is one of those guys. Ran around with a woman that looks like Ursula and eventually ran off with her. Later, he threatened to sue one of his sons if his name wasn't taken off of something. Just completely screwed up any semblance of a relationship with his boys. Am I the asshole for denying my ex his son after he abandoned us and I took the choice alone to give him up for adoption? I, 32 female, had a baby boy when I was 16. Yes, I know how that sounds like, and no, we were not careful. Judge me all you want on that front. I've dealt with that for years. Mike, 33 male, was my boyfriend then, and when I found out about the pregnancy, he did a disappearing act with help from his family. Something something, future college star something. My parents were always blunt. What happened next was my choice. After a lot of thinking and deciding abortion just wasn't for me, and I respect that right, I'm not here to debate it, it just wasn't for me, I chose to give up the baby for adoption. My parents knew a super sweet couple that were looking to adopt. We met, and I just knew that they were the right people. This turned from a teenage mistake to an almost surrogacy. I started homeschool to finish my education and to have rest. The adoptive parents were with me for everything and even paid for most of the medical cost. The adoptive mother was a teacher, so she helped me with my schoolwork and to prepare for college. They were present for the birth, and I refused to hold the baby. Instead, his actual mother did. And it was just right. I've stayed in the baby's life in a distant position as a special aunt. Well, he's no longer a baby, and he knows who I am, but his mum is the same woman that raised him, and I continue to be his special aunt. The only change is now he knows who to call if he needs a kidney. His sense of humor is like mine, go figure. We talk maybe once in a blue moon, which in all honesty is the best. He's happy, and I don't regret giving him up to have a happy life. For my part, I married 6 years ago. My husband Aaron, 44 male, was divorced in good terms with Bella, 40 female. They have 2 children together, a boy that is 16 and a girl that is 19. Aaron made it clear since we began dating that his kids' approval was important and that Bella was a part of his life forever. Not as a spouse, but as a friend and mother to his children. I also told Bella and him about my teen pregnancy. Well, to begin with the kids, my stepdaughter and I get along well. She's obviously closer to her mother, but she still does girl days with me every so often. It's more like friends though. My stepson is incredibly close to me. He calls me his other mum and always asks me to be present for important events. We bonded when his childhood dog passed away, as my cat died about the same time. But Bella and I? We're best friends. I know people have complicated relationships with their partner's exes, but we always show respect to each other. I never tried to take her place. I know Aaron and her shared something special long before I was in the picture. That is their history, and I am a stepmom, not a mum. Her place in the kid's life is not up for competition. The reason for this background is that the whole mess with Mike started when I took my stepson to a medical appointment. It wasn't serious, though he did have to use anesthesia. Aaron and Bella both couldn't get the day off. They tried, but their jobs are on call, and they cannot easily take time off. So I went on my own to be my stepson's support. I didn't recognize Mike as one of the doctors. His real name, both first and last name, are incredibly common, and it had been years. Not to mention my priority was being my stepson's support, and everything else was secondary. After my stepson was done, he was a bit out of it as expected. I was setting him up in the car and making sure he was comfortable when Mike came over. He told me he had been thinking about me and our son for so long, and he was glad our boy was okay. It really took me a few minutes for my brain to click on what was going on, and he kept on rambling on about apologies and how he wasn't ready to be a father. Blah, blah, blah. Eventually, I just sigh and loudly said, "This is not the baby I was pregnant with. I gave him up for adoption after I gave birth. I am a stepmother." My loopy stepson chimed in with, other mum. I had to hold back a smirk, to be honest. Mike was stunned by that, and it gave me time to catch him up on the important details. I gave up the baby, he knows what happened and why I gave him up, I married a man with 2 children, I am happy, and I don't want him in my life. And no, I won't give him contact information for the adoptive family. He is 16 years too late. That was the end of it, and I got into my car to get my stepson home to rest. Since then, Mike found me on social media and has been painting this sob story about me denying him a chance to be a father, how I was a poor mother that threw away their child to raise someone else's children. I am basically the she-devil apparently. Most of our former classmates that saw the post reminded him that he left me. Some of his friends even pointed out that he laughed about leaving me pregnant. I didn't know that part. A few of his relatives have reached out to bash me about taking Mike's chance to be a father, that it made me a poor Christian. I'm not. I'm Jewish to begin with. A few friends did tell me that it was a bitch move to give the baby up without telling Mike. I don't personally think that I was in the wrong, but just in case, I decided to leave the judgment to the internet masses. So Reddit, am I the arsehole? In clearing things out, the adoptive parents and bio child have a phone number to contact Mike's parents if they want. I have no say if they do or do not. I just won't give Mike any information on them. In the comments, Tis a Wizard says, when he abandoned you and his son, he made the choice of not being a part of his or your life, and you don't need to tell him anything else. The decision of adoption was yours, and you did what you think was right, and that is normal. You did not deny him anything, he did it himself, not the asshole. Not to mention, if Mike really did think about the kid often, and wonder if he was okay and whatever other nonsense he spouted at OP, then why did he not contact her earlier? He clearly knew how, since he found her on social media so quickly. This just smacks of bullshit. Not the asshole by a mile. Well, because now that the kid is nearly an adult, and almost all of the hard work is done, now he wants to know the kid. And a mystery child is the same age that he was when he abandoned his kid too. Now that it looks easy, he wants in. Hajpaj says, these people are fucking psycho. Block, block, block. Your bio kid might decide for himself to try and find his bio dad one day, but it's your job to defend his privacy until then, and make sure his decision is informed, i.e., he knows that his bio dad is a complete arse. And OP says, I told him everything when his parents decided that it was time to tell him who I was really. I didn't make Mike into a villain, just said that he left after I told him I was pregnant and never reached out. He's been clear that while I'm his biological mother and Mike is his biological father, he doesn't see either of us as parents. I am his aunt and Mike is a stranger. And Library Mouse says, I hope Mike never finds him. If he does, make sure your nephew gets more details about Mike's actions so he doesn't give him a chance at all. OP should definitely warn the kid's parents in case Mike shows up wanting to play at being dad. Finding someone isn't that hard these days, and if OP is in their lives, even minimally, that will make it easier. Protect the kid. Interesting that all these good Christians online haven't been in the kid's life for the last 16 years, right? And they defend him and, just leave out the part where he laughed at getting her pregnant and walking out. Mike lost all good faith when he decided to walk out that one day, and to not even grovel and beg on his knees when presented an opportunity to get back in your life, quote unquote. Not that he wasn't stalking you on social media all this time. Just shows that he doesn't care. He does not care to be in this kid's life. He hasn't changed, and he's not a good person. I would not give him any benefit of the doubt. I would not give him a chance. I would shut it down with the entire family. Do parental alienation all you want. Because as your biological kid has said, Mike is a stranger, and we need to treat him as such. He is not a good stranger. He is a dangerous stranger. Not the asshole at all, OP. And now, onto the update. I'm going to start with the important matter. A lot of people were worried about my biological kid and what he wished when it came to Mike. Well, I got his permission to post this. He spoke to Mike once a few days after I told him where he could find Mike. I won't share all the details, only the final decision. There won't be any more contact between them. The kid doesn't want a second dad, and Mike wasn't willing to be in his life unless he had the position of dad. So he's going no contact with Mike. There was more to it, but it's very personal, and I feel it's not my place to share. The kid and I will continue to have a relationship as aunt and nephew, and he knows whatever he needs medically, I will always be first in line to give blood, kidney, etc. For those wondering why Mike is so big into contact with the kid, I found out a few details via his friends. Mike can have more kids, he just hasn't had a stable relationship in years. Color me surprised. Shocking. Which I can believe, since I finally had enough and decided to accept going to have coffee with him to get some things squared away. My husband came, of course, but he sat in another table to let me deal with it. I asked him to. The conversation was a shit show, to be honest. Mike brought me flowers and chocolate-covered strawberries, my old favorites. He treated it all like some date. I nipped that bud immediately. I introduced my husband and told him that we were very much in love and happy, so I don't appreciate any attempts at unwanted romance. Once we sat down, he started by telling me what I knew about him having failed relationships, that he felt no woman could meet his standards for a wife and mother to his children, since he already saw me as that. He claims he feels guilty for choosing college over me and our baby. He was well aware of the court dates regarding custody and that I was trying to put the baby up for adoption. When he saw me taking care of my stepson, he thought that I had chickened out of giving the baby away. Seeing me be all caring of our baby boy made him think how great it would be if the three of us could be a family and maybe have a bigger family down the road. He had the gall to ask me if I would consider divorcing my husband and try to fight for custody of our son. I have to admit, I laughed in his face. I probably was overly cruel, but I had years of stress, heartache, and judgmental encounters to drop on him. I told him all I saw in him was a coward. A coward that instead of staying to make adult decisions, decided to run away with the help of Mummy and Daddy. That any love that I had for him died the day that I had to push out a full human being, and instead of knowing that I had support from him, there was a big empty spot where the dad was supposed to be. That I almost ruined my life and had to throw away prom, senior pictures, and even graduation because I was far too pregnant to party, appear on the yearbook, or walk onto stage to get my diploma. He got to party and enjoy life, while I had to fight tooth and nail for an inch of respect, yet we both had unprotected sex. The only difference is his dick wasn't big enough to pop a baby out or satisfy a woman to begin with. After I calmed down, I simply told him that I had a happy life with a human that loves me. Great stepkids that are the greatest gift, a best friend who lets me be a stepmom to her children, a nephew who I adore, and who, despite our history as biological mother and child, he still loves me as his special aunt rather than hate me. My family is perfect because he is not a part of it, and I have no intentions to live in his fantasy, and that I can't wait to get pregnant with my husband's child to add to that perfection. I also told him to leave the biological kid alone. He has made his choice, and it's up to him if he ever reaches out for Mike. And also let him know that I would be making a formal complaint to his hospital for his harassment. Good thing my husband took screenshots, because by the time we got home, Mike had deleted all the posts. A lot of his former friends did repost screenshots making fun of him. The silver lining in all of this is that I've reconnected with my high school classmates, and to be honest, they are great people. Seems that Mike is in a handful that stayed in his school hype mindset. It's been about 3 days, and no signs of Mike. My husband did get the biggest ego boost when he overheard me going off on Mike, and has been insufferable in a good way. So there's mostly good news. Hopefully one of these days we'll get even more good news, since we're actually excited at the idea of having a baby together. In the comments, Peach Educational says, regarding him asking you to divorce your husband and fight together for our son, outside of getting physical, there's practically no overreaction to that. And OP says, I almost got physical to be honest, but I had my nails just done. He wasn't worth breaking a nail. Very few things are worth breaking a nail, but hun, breaking one to hurt that bastard would have been one of those things. And OP says, yeah, but he's not worth the $150 bill. He wasn't even worth the $14 bill at the cafe. Oh my god, this sass. You dropped this, queen. Here's your crown back. Oh my god. Library Mouse says, you have a wonderful husband and fabulous kids, and hopefully another baby soon. You are the clear winner. Mike is just a wiener. I hope Mike thinks about his mistakes every day for the rest of his life. A life where he never gets to be a dad. That will be his karma. And I'm so glad that your nephew wants nothing to do with him. I hope there is an update, even though you said there probably won't be. I'm sure many of us would love to hear more about your happiness and a new baby, as well as hear about how miserable Mike's life has gotten in the future, and reports of some consequences at work for his behavior. I'm staggered that some idiot who's bright enough to become a doctor has no clue about family law. Once a child is adopted out, there's really no reversing that under the law. I mean, I'm sure there's lawyers happy to take money for useless fights, but that's about the extent. Also, to walk up to a married woman and throw out, hey babe, it was so fun getting you pregnant and bailing on you and the child that I think you should ditch your husband and we should do it again. Like, what? Yeah, let me get right on it. Just wow. I'm glad he's in the rearview mirror now. Tale as old as time, huh? Men making women do all the work, then swooping in and making demands. Love that for them. She's so lucky that she met his standards for a wife and mother. Like, wow, he brought her all her favorite things from how long ago? What a gentleman. You know, for that reason alone, she should divorce him, because that is the normal, level-headed thing to do. I would be Googling the medical license board in your state, OP, and filing a report about him. He shouldn't be approaching a patient and the parents with information he got that was sensitive. That sounds like a big no-no. Plus, I'm sure they'd love to hear about the harassment online. This to me seems like a major slam dunk, major violation, serious lack of judgment, committing slander and libel online. And he definitely knows better. You need to come back with an update and drag his ass. HIPAA would love to hear about what he's been up to. Thank you for the update on this one, OP. That was amazing. I love that. Keep being amazing and all the best for the future. Our next post is by user Phoenician Merchant, titled, would I be the asshole here if I only spoke German to my husband despite him requesting that I don't? I, female 31, recently signed up to sit an advanced German exam with the full support and encouragement of my husband, male 30. We live in Germany where I work in an English-speaking environment, so to get extra practice in, I told him that after X date, we would switch to German, which he is fluent in. He grew up here. We've managed 2 days so far, where even if he accidentally said something in English, I answer in German. But last night he told me he needed a break from me speaking German. I refused and said that it's only for 10 weeks until my exam, and then I'll go back to English. He says I don't sound like his wife when I speak German. I asked if it was because my mistakes were jarring or my vocab was causing issues. He said it just didn't feel like he was speaking to his wife. I think it's vital that I stick to my plan to get my speaking practice in. He seemed a bit sad after I said no. Would I be the arsehole here if I carry on auf Deutsch? In the comments, Lady Taruki says, fun fact, it's been proven that our personality changes, or more accurately, slightly shifts, when we speak in a different language. Because language frames how we perceive the world and others, and how we relate our experiences to our interlocutors. It has a big influence when it comes to relationships. So I absolutely understand what your husband means by he doesn't feel like he's speaking to his wife. However, despite the uncomfortable experience of it, I do believe that you being able to succeed at your exam, with what I imagine the future of your life in Germany with him hanging in the balance, with what it implies for your everyday life, your professional future, potentially your immigration paperwork, is more important than this temporary issue. It is, in fact, only for 10 weeks. To me, you're not the asshole, but I recommend inviting German-speaking friends and family over, going to the movies, or any activity that works for you along those lines, so maybe he gets some time off from being your immersion tutor every day of the week. I totally agree. Sometimes I want to tell people, do you know how smart I sound in my language? Like Gloria from Modern Family said. I have a friend who always tells me, I'm so funny in Macedonian, but it's too bad you don't understand it. It never fails to make me laugh. Dryad Uinth says, you're the asshole. He's your husband, not your teacher, and he made a plea for just a break. Practice on someone else from time to time. Let him have a little bit of English from you at least once a day. Maybe set a plan where you speak English at breakfast, for example, so you have a block of time where he knows what to expect and when not to expect it. Exactly this. You're the asshole, and the fact that he literally asked for a break and you just refused is crazy wild. A little compromise wouldn't kill you. Giving him even a small part of the day in English would make a huge difference. Practicing is great, but your husband isn't a language app. Yeah, 10 weeks or 2.5 months is a lot of time. OP does need to give him a little break. I haven't seen a lot of other comments about how long she's forcing this on him. 10 weeks is literally a whole semester at my school. That's a long time to expect him to just put up with it. Hard agree. I'm in a multilingual relationship, and it's mentally very tiring to be speaking each other's languages or trying to understand, correct, explain. Especially frustrating if you're trying to have a serious or intimate conversation. I also don't feel like we're exactly the same people in different languages. We practice either when we are with each other's family, for casual moments like making lunch, etc., or while we watch a movie or series in that language, or just when we feel like it, but contained moments. It's not super immersive, but it's not as exhausting. Yeah, I'm with the you're the asshole crowd on this one, or you would be the asshole if you continue down this path. Relationships, and especially marriages, are about compromise, and you are refusing to compromise here. I don't see what he's doing wrong that is pissing you off here. He's being reasonable. He's trying to come to a middle ground and say, hey, can we not speak German all the time? I'll do it with you sometimes if we can agree to it. 2.5 months is a long time. I understand that it's very important that you get this exam done correctly. But you are literally living in Germany. You are in the immersion zone. He is not the only person that you can speak German to. Literally, go touch grass. Go touch grass, and you'll be able to practice German. It really is that easy. You don't have to put the full burden on your husband. That is not fair to him. And now, on to the update. Thanks to most of you for your very well thought out and reasonable comments. I tried to read as many as possible and appreciate the different viewpoints. My husband came home this evening, we ate dinner, and I apologized, in English, for not being very understanding. I showed him the post, and some of the comments made us laugh so much. We discussed and found a healthy compromise that works for the both of us to help me prep but not exhaust him after a long day. I've also taken on your suggestions of other places I can try and hone my German conversation skills, and will try some of them out. Am I the asshole for freaking out at my friends after they implied that my husband was a predator? Me, 27 female, and my husband, 29 male, have been together for 10 years and married for 6. He's the love of my life. When we got together, he moved in with me and my family because I lived with my parents at the time in a very expensive city. I have 3 younger siblings, 16 female, 14 male, and 12 female. For all their 14th birthdays, I've always said that I would take them on a trip. We took my sister on a trip for her 14th birthday, and now at the end of this month, we're taking my little brother. My husband and my brother get along better than anyone. Neither of them have a brother. My husband has a sister, and my brother is the only boy out of 6 of us. So they gravitate towards each other, and it's incredibly sweet to see. It's like they were meant to be brothers. Last night, I was hanging out with a few of my friends, and I was talking about how we were planning on taking my brother on a trip, and I joked about how I would be third-wheeling the entire time because they get along so well. A few of my friends laughed, but one of them gave me a weird look. She said that sounded really weird and inappropriate if my husband is giving my younger brother more attention than me. I said no, it wasn't like that at all. They just get along well and it was just a joke. Said friend then said that it was inappropriate that my almost 30-year-old husband is so close with my brother who is a minor, and said that she wouldn't be surprised if it was like a grooming situation and I am blind to it. I freaked the hell out, I'm not gonna lie. I yelled at her, how dare she imply anything like that about my husband, who she has met and gets along with, and she's the pervert if she thinks my husband, who is the only boy, bonding with my younger brother, who is the only boy, is inappropriate. I left then and went home, and since then the group chat has been blowing up with people taking sides, either agreeing that it is kinda weird, and others saying that she was way out of line and needs to get over herself. I haven't told my husband because I don't want him to feel weird, but I'm starting to feel bad about how I handled it and thinking that I overreacted and should have just left. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Better Day says, "Lol, what the hell? Absolutely not the asshole. I would have lost my mind if I was in your position. That's like someone telling me that my boyfriend getting along so well and bonding with my nephew is creepy. No, bish, you're creepy for taking a brotherly/friendly bond and immediately assuming it's sexual. Barf." I completely agree. Also, it makes me wonder how messed up your friend's life is. Opie needs to cut off this friendship and tell her husband. Imagine finding out your wife's friends think that you're a pedo. It would be a betrayal if he wasn't kept in the loop here. If he finds out later, he might think his wife was complicit. Cut the opinionated weirdo out completely, leave any social situation when she arrives, and certainly don't let her around your siblings. What kind of person is so devoid of meaningful personal friendships that the idea of a kid having another male role model automatically makes them think abuse opportunity? Something is actually wrong with her. It really pisses me off when people try to make things that clearly aren't sexual, and then act like you're the weird one when they're the ones projecting their trauma onto people. Not everything is sexual or even needs to be viewed that way. Someone tried to tell me that it was weird that I change my daughter's diaper because I'm a man and I'm taking her innocence. Like, what the fuck are you going on about, you freaky ass? Not the asshole. It's nice to hear that your family likes each other. I wish I had that in my family growing up. Yeah, I think projection is a hell of a drug in this case. But I think it goes a little bit beyond that. I think this person is manufacturing trauma. People really just be making shit up, and then they say it enough times like it's the truth. That woman is genuinely out here trying to tear apart an innocent man's life. And for what? What does she get out of it? Does she feel superior doing this to him? Genuine, disgusting, weirdo behavior. You're not the asshole at all for freaking out at your friend. Where did they even get this notion that that was happening? What is wrong with them? I would do exactly the same as you did in this situation, and I don't blame you for what you've done, and I don't think you're wrong. And now, on to the update. I did tell him because I wanted him to 1. Know why I was so pissed off all day, and 2. Hear it from me in case it becomes a bigger thing. He was obviously hurt. I told him he did nothing wrong and that it was her who was nasty. I ended up sending a text in the group chat and blocking everyone who made a case in defense of her. I refuse to allow some stupid "see you next Tuesday" to ruin a beautiful friendship between soul brothers. Our next post is by user Tiny Bird's Nest, titled, "Friend having wedding day before mine and kept relationship hidden for a whole year. What do I do?" So I'm getting married in a few weeks. About a month ago, one of my best friends who I've known since college and have kept in regular contact with dropped the bomb that she was getting married. I didn't even know that she was seeing anyone. She then drops the bomb that she's marrying a guy in our friend group and that her wedding is going to have to be the day before mine because her father-in-law can't get time off work at any other time that month, and essentially gave a few other half-assed reasons about why other weekends weren't possible. One weekend will be a few days before her period starts, so she'll be bloated. The other, she's on her period. The other is Valentine's weekend, and that's cringy. The other is too close to Ramadan, so she can't go on her honeymoon straight away. Some backstory about the person she's marrying. She's someone that we always thought she had a thing, but she'd always deny it and say she saw him like a brother. We used to argue a bit over her prioritizing him over me back in college, especially because this guy and I didn't really get on much, and her and I were so close. E.g., me and her had brunch plans once and she spent the whole time texting him. After graduating though, I feel like we all matured and put differences behind us to the point where her husband-to-be was actually invited to my wedding as my friend. My knee-jerk reaction to her telling me that she was engaged was crying tears of joy for her. I truly was happy for her, but when I went home to think about it, I felt really icky. All year since I've been wedding planning, she's been asking me really specific questions about my planning process. She complained to me that as my best friend, she didn't feel involved enough in my planning process and said she wanted to come dress shopping with me, which I invited her to because of her expressing this, but then for her to turn around and tell me that she's been dating this guy on and off for a year, whilst also keeping it secret, makes her feeling left out of my stuff come across as so hypocritical. And then there's the question of why the rush, since she's known him for a decade, and why specifically my wedding weekend, when I sent out my save the dates back in March, so she's had so much time to plan and leave some time in between. It's not about me not having all the attention on me, it's just how can she expect me to be fully present at her wedding, and how selfish she must be to expect me to have to fit her into an already stressful weekend for me. When I told her this, she doubled down on that weekend being the only one available, and that she specifically chose that one because she knew that I'd be available since I'd booked a few days off from work before the wedding, and that she needed me at her wedding. She said I would embarrass her around her future in-laws since she made such a point of needing to pick a date that I could attend, even though I had no clue that she was seeing him, nor did she check if the day was a good fit for me. I then also expressed how upset I was that she kept the relationship hidden from me, to which she said she thought that I would cut her off because of my history not getting on with this guy. Again, we all moved past that stuff years ago and are a far cry from the kids that we were then when we all met back in freshman year. When I told her that I didn't think I could make her wedding, she was so upset that she cried and said she never thought that I'd do that to her and skip her wedding. She's been telling other friends in the friend group that I'm coming to the wedding when they've asked if that date is doable for me. We haven't spoken since my conversation about how upset I was with her a month ago. I'm not trying to be a bridezilla, and I know people are entitled to be private. My issue is that she should have extended that privacy with me and not asked so many questions about my life, knowing she was being so tight-lipped with hers. This is where I now need advice. I feel so bitter and like the whole friendship was a lie. I can't make it to her wedding, and honestly, having her at mine feels disingenuous. She's been telling friends that she is still coming to mine. Is it rude for me to not go to her wedding? Should I go to her wedding since this is a decade-long friendship? Part of me wants to disinvite her and her husband-to-be from my wedding because of the lies. Is that rude? Is there a polite way to disinvite someone from your wedding without coming across like an absolute villain? Thank you for reading up to here if you have. In the comments, someone asks, when did this friend send out wedding invitations that you just found out and she's expecting you to attend? Sounds very last minute on her part. And OP replies, so from what I've heard from the grapevine, she's only just found a venue and no invitations have gone out yet. She's been insisting that officially the engagement and knowing they were getting married in November, which is why nothing had been booked. It all just seems so wishy-washy to me. Someone else says, I just have to add a totally instant gut reaction to this situation. Your quote-unquote friend was siphoning off all of your wedding planning to make hers easier. She deliberately planned the day before yours to cover that fact up. Hers is the earlier wedding, therefore you copied her, in her mind anyway. I'm very sorry that you're going through this, but this is not a friend. Grieve the loss of what you thought you had and move on with your life. No way you should bother to attend her wedding. She knows it isn't possible for you to go the day before your own wedding. She planned that. But I would formally revoke her invitation to your wedding. Best of luck to you. Hugs from an internet nana. OP replies, that's what I'm thinking too. Before all of this, she kept on saying how easy wedding planning seemed to be going for me. It is not easy at all. I'm just good at hiding it and am very organized. And how I'd thought of things that she would never have even known was a thing. In terms of disinviting and the cultural impact, It's very split down the middle with opinions, so I'm really torn. Thank you for the hugs. I really appreciate it. This has really helped me feel like I'm not being unreasonable or a bridezilla. Another commenter says, quite simply, she's a terrible friend. Here's the gist of what you wrote. 1. You guys are allegedly close, yet she didn't tell you about her year-long relationship. 2. She's chosen to inconvenience you in your own wedding weekend, assuming you'd be available the day before your own wedding, after she hid her relationship from you. 3. She's lying to everyone about you attending her wedding. 4. She hasn't shared any details about her own wedding, despite making you feel guilty about not including her in your own wedding planning. And 5. You never even really liked her husband. If she thought you'd cut her off for dating this man, why would she think you'd be okay not cutting her off for marrying him? She seems the kind of friend who wants to know all of your business without sharing anything from her own life. Honestly, not the kind of company you'd want to keep. And OP says, heavy on the last point. I have so many friends who are private people and don't speak on many things until they are set in stone. But at the same time, they follow a don't ask, don't tell policy, so it doesn't bother me at all. And I completely agree about the worry of me cutting her off. I said this to her and she really didn't have anything to say in response. I was over all of that stuff anyway. I invited him to the wedding because I'd gotten over my dislike of him these last few years, but apparently she has selective memory and only wants to believe the things that suit her narrative. Someone asks, how would she know that you got over your dislike of her fiancé? OP says, she should have known that I moved past it because we all hang out as a group a few times a year, and her husband-to-be received an invite to my wedding. My issue is her getting upset with me for not being involved in the wedding planning, which comes across as hypocritical. But you're right. I've learned I should be more tight-lipped about certain things now, I guess. And one last thought from OP. Trust me, there are so many holes that I'm curious about too in her story, and a lot else that I didn't put in myself. In terms of how busy I'll be the day before my wedding, I'll be putting together my wedding favors with the girls in the family in the days leading up to the wedding. We'll be doing airport runs up to the day before, as a lot of family will be traveling in. Some from 20 plus hours away, and we live close to 3 major airports, so it's all hands on deck. And then honestly, I was hoping that I'd get a nice early night in to relax for once because I've had such a busy year. I'll be combining my henna event with the reception on the day of the wedding because I've already had 2 events and have a Western-style bridal shower the weekend before, so wanted to cut down on events. And now, onto the update, 1.5 months later. A few people in the original post were asking about rehearsal dinners and all of that stuff. I'm Middle Eastern, and we don't really do that in our culture. Some people also said that I needed to get over myself, and that I don't own the whole weekend, which is true. I don't. My issue was the lying, and also the expectation of me to drive a total of 5 hours, 2.5 hours there and back, the day before my wedding, and to attend another when I had so many things to finalize. I also just needed to vent. Being lied to and having something that felt so calculated happen in what I thought was one of my closest friendships is strange. Oh, and I don't think that it was a shotgun wedding, which a lot of people were suggesting, but anyway, I had my wedding. It was perfect, and I wouldn't change a thing. I didn't go to her wedding. I genuinely didn't have time. I did see some posted videos of her wedding. She did not copy mine, which a lot of people were worried about, considering that she had been asking me a lot about my prep. I'll give her her flowers though. Her wedding was gorgeous, but definitely not a 2-month planned wedding like she was making it out it was to me. In the end, she ended up coming to my wedding about 3 hours late. I was too busy being in my own newly married bubble to notice her or anything, but I did get feedback from people who were sat at her table. Like people said she would in my original post, she spent the whole time talking about her wedding. In our culture, the bride receives a heavy piece of gold jewelry at her wedding. She made a show of having her new husband take her piece of jewelry out of her bag and putting it on her at the table just after my husband and I, feels so nice saying that, did our outfit change. She was also showing off other pieces of jewelry that she received, making a point to emphasize that she received real sapphires and real diamonds. Her and her husband also spent the whole time texting each other, which means they were probably saying not very nice things that they didn't want our mutual friends overhearing. And she also frequently would turn to him and say, "Don't worry, we're leaving soon." They were also packing on the PDA with neck kisses. She also then cried to my mum and brother about how she doesn't understand why I've not been talking to her and how I've been so cold to her. This wasn't true. I had only told her how much her actions and lies had hurt me, and to be honest, she was the one who didn't respond to my last message. My mum, being the classic mum she is, brought her to me and tried to make us hug it out. We had this very awkward exchange caught on camera. My mum did tell my friend that she shouldn't have lied to me for a whole year though, so it's nice to know that she had my back even if she pulled a typical mum move, trying to make everyone happy. Our mutual friends are all on my side. No one really thinks that she's in the right. Most of them didn't go to the wedding. With the invites being so last minute and her wedding being on a weekday, a lot of people couldn't take the time off for childcare. No one else knew about the wedding, which is crazy. I do believe that her truth is that she doesn't think that she's done anything wrong, and she really does think that she considered me and my situation in her wedding planning. Unfortunately, I think it's one of those friendships where we no longer really align, and I have taken a step back and distanced myself from her. I do appreciate that she came to my wedding, however, I think she did it to make a point more than out of the goodness of her heart and respect for our friendship, considering what she pulled. In the comments, Transportation Clean says, "Sorry, did anyone else catch the on and off for a year? You're saying that in that year, they had split and then got back together, and they're basically having a shotgun wedding? Sounds romantic. Anyways, wish the best to the happy couple," being OP and the husband. It very much reads like a high school relationship where one of them declares the relationship is over every time they have a fight. That is some vile lady, and OP should not be friends with her. That was planned, like a revenge thing. I guess that friend's husband plays a big part in it. It really feels like the friend was giggling to herself like, haha, this'll show OP, and now they'll all pay, ah ha ha ha, and doesn't realize that everyone thinks she's weird, cringe, and they're all just confused by her at this point. Reeks of someone who hasn't grown up, but everyone else has. Kind of like a person turning up to a wedding wearing white. They think everyone will be talking about how good they look, oh, so much better than the bride, and instead, everyone is staring in embarrassment at the Fruit Loop who is insane enough to think anyone would approve this choice. Yeah, I'm with the other commenters. I think OP needs to nip this friendship in the bud sooner than later. She sounds like a lost cause, and I would not waste my time on her any longer. Good riddance to bad trash. Our next post is by user ThrowRA Lilyfly, and it's titled, "My 24 female, child's 5 male, grandmother suddenly turned up in my life again." So when I had just turned 19, I unexpectedly found out that I was pregnant with my then boyfriend's baby. I had just turned 19, and he was a bit more than a year younger than me. Being 17 at that time, and just finishing high school, I didn't want to destroy his life, and I was set on going to university in Europe. So when I told him and his family, I also told them that they'd never have the chance to see me or my baby ever, as I'll be leaving the country and don't want to destroy my boyfriend's future. My then boyfriend and his family agreed. His mother and grandmother never really liked me because my family was on the other side of the political spectrum. My family supported me through all of this, but my then boyfriend and I never talked again. I had my beautiful boy at the end of 2019, and he was God's gift for me, even though he was never planned. I still went to university, wherein I finished my medical degree. I never heard anything of my son's dad or his family. I moved back to my family just a few weeks ago, as I had missed them terribly, and wanted them to be more involved in my son's life as well. That's where my son's paternal grandmother plays a role, as she suddenly turned up at my front door a few days ago and demanded that my son move in with them. I obviously refused and reminded her that we agreed on never seeing each other again. Turns out that her daughter, my baby daddy's older sister, lost her baby, and that's where they suddenly remembered that I had been pregnant. They are now constantly harassing me with messages and calls. They, as in my baby daddy's sister and his mother, but I've heard nothing of my baby daddy yet. What am I supposed to do in a situation like this? Edit, because there seems to be some confusion, I didn't finish my degree in under 4 years. I wish. I was 5 months pregnant when I moved away for university and finished just a few weeks ago. My son is turning 6 this year, so to give you a proper timeline, it took me nearly 5.5 years to finish my degree, and I never did the foundation program. I don't know why my degree is a part of the discussion here. Another edit, getting a bit tired of people telling me that I didn't get a degree. I studied in the UK, not the US. Yes, medical school takes 8 years in the US, but if you take half a second to Google, you'd notice that the medical school in the UK is much shorter. Thank you. In the comments, Cassowary says, if they want access to your son, they'll need to go through the courts. Talk to a lawyer about filing harassment charges and getting a restraining order. Is your ex on the birth certificate? I was wondering about that as well. She should also return any gifts the family would try to leave at the doorstep or deliver, because they'll probably use that to try to establish familial relations to wedge themselves in her child's life. Mean Yogurt says, in addition to calling the police and talking to an attorney, I suggest to make sure to confer with school and creche or whatever your son is attending to never release him to anyone except for you or your parents. So these strangers won't get to pick him up from anywhere. I am very sorry that you're going through this. Be very, very careful. Some people out there are not exactly sane. Yeah, this sounds like something that a lawyer needs to look at, in all honesty. Reddit can give you all the advice in the world for a situation like this, but a lawyer will be your best friend. What are you supposed to do in a situation like this? Whatever the lawyer says. Good luck. And now, onto the update, 5 days later. First of all, I want to thank all of you for your opinions and advice. I read all of it and decided to proceed with caution as I got scared for my son's safety. So yeah, here's a small update. On Tuesday, I contacted my ex-boyfriend about his mother's and sister's behavior. He was absolutely taken aback as he hadn't known any of this and had no idea that I was even back in the country. Both of us were a bit unsure of what to do next, but decided to meet up the following day to talk about it, and, as many of you advised, to let him meet our son. He asked for a picture of him, and when I sent him one, I could hear him burst into tears on our call, and it really hurt me to know how much this impacted him. He then told me how he was pressured into not talking to me, as his mum threatened to disown him if he did. He was scared to lose his family's support and said that he would be unable to fund college otherwise. I understood his perspective and told him that we were both young and naive and didn't really know any better. He vowed that he would care for both me and my son, but it's honestly too early to figure out whether that's true or not. But we seem to get along just as well as we did when we were still a couple. He promised to talk to his mother and sister, and also mentioned that I should consider filing a report, which I'm still unsure about, but am considering doing. He met my son yesterday, and it went about as well as it could go. Seeing him made me all emotional as well, and the moment we saw each other, we both started crying. It was a wonderful day that we all got to spend together, and it honestly made me think of what life could be if we could be a proper family. My son absolutely admires him, and after we went home, he asked me if Dad can come live with us. I honestly started crying again and called my ex the same evening, asking him to meet up again soon. We will see where this is heading, but for now, his mother and sister have left me and my son alone, no calls, nothing. Any idea if I should still press charges, and how I should go forward with my son and his dad so I overwhelm neither of them? In the comments, Jellico Alpha says, I would advise you to speak to a child psychologist about what are the best steps to incorporate your child's father back into his life. I think you should also speak to an attorney who deals in situations like this, because if your ex wants back into your child's life, then at some point he will inquire about gaining some partial custody. So you need to be prepared and not be caught off guard or pressured. The child's father advised her to file a police report. He knows his family better than anyone. She should listen to him and file the police report first. I think the ex is right. File a report here and seek legal advice. Warn schools and ensure that she is kept away. Don't get swept up in emotion either. You and your ex both need to be careful. Counseling as above, but get legal advice on rights, etc., and get it drawn up. The last thing you need is someone who hasn't been involved until now from preventing you from going back abroad or getting a passport and traveling without your permission. Proceed with caution. You don't know this man. You knew him when he was basically still a child. That man in front of you isn't the child that you knew 6 years ago. On that note, I wouldn't be inviting him to stay in your home, and I wouldn't be thinking about letting him take care of you and the baby. There are so many red flags between this update and the original story that you could knit a jumper for each member of your country's local army base. I get that it can be exciting and almost a relief when you are faced with something that looks like it could possibly be the answer to your current woes, but you are a doctor. You are sensible. Surely you realize that you've probably been led right into this situation on purpose. His mother and grandmother, sister as well if I remember correctly, were all harassing you, demanding to see your son, and demanding that you let your ex live with you. You then call the ex, he acts surprised, like he didn't know they were doing that. I mean, come on now, let's be real here. Of course he knew. And now you are considering doing exactly what they wanted from you. I know I'm likely one of a minority here because everyone wants a happy ending, especially when kids are involved, but this whole thing smells like a trap to me. If I'm wrong, then great, I'm glad. But if I'm not, then you are walking into a lifetime of misery, abuse, and endless court cases. And OP replies, "Oh God, honestly, I haven't even considered this scenario up until now. Thank you for the advice." And Red for the Win replies, "He's advising you to file a police report. He knows something nefarious, or at least suspects it of his family. Regardless of how you proceed in anything else, file that police report immediately." There's a lot more that I could read here, and there's people poking holes in it as well when it comes to that guy's advice. Like Sorry I Guess here says, if this were the case, why would he be encouraging her to file a police report against the mother and sister? Your take, while appropriately cautious, doesn't make any rational sense. Yes, but it seems to me that this is someone that has experienced a very similar situation to this and is just urging them to use some common sense. Like I said before, go talk to a lawyer. Go, get a lawyer's advice on this. A family lawyer will do you wonders. A lot of these people giving advice are survivors of horrifically abusive situations, and it is worth listening to them. I just think it's really unhinged that that family did not care about that baby at all until one of their own kids had died. This seems like a very appropriate situation to protect yourself because who knows how those people are going to act, and you want the full force of the law on your side, absolutely. Those people seem unhinged to me. Please come back with more updates, OP. I would love to know how this situation resolves, but that is all we have for now. So thank you for your story that you're sharing with us. Am I the asshole for refusing to babysit my sister's kids for several weeks while she's on a baby moon with her boyfriend? My 28 female sister Jamie, 38 female, has 3 kids. Melanie, 11 female, Sarah, 8 female, and Carl, 5 male, with her ex-husband, whom she divorced 6 months ago due to her cheating with her current boyfriend, Daniel, 62 male. Interesting. Jamie's kids are absolute brats, and last time they came over, 3 years ago, Melanie smashed a vase and Sarah scribbled on my Uggs with permanent marker. This was when I decided to become child-free. I also decided to distance myself from them, though I do speak to them and we do have occasional family dinners at my aunt's place. Anyways, Jamie and Daniel are expecting a child, a boy, and they decided to go on a baby moon, which will happen in a week, and they are not very wealthy. Jamie spent nearly all of her money on the trip, and Daniel will work double shifts until then and after the baby moon to support the both of them, so they did not hire a babysitter. Yesterday, Jamie unexpectedly called me and asked if I could babysit her kids. I said no, as I've been getting a degree online, and I have to fly to where my university is for my graduation ceremony. At first, she tried to persuade me, saying that her kids are absolute darlings, and I won't even notice that they are there. I said that my answer was still the same, and then she went off on a rant and called me all kinds of shit, like that I'm a heartless bear who can't have a little compassion for her poor pregnant sister. I told her that if she wants somebody to work for her for free, she can actually get a job and not sleep with men who are literally old enough to be her father in the hopes that they are rich. She hung up and is now bombarding me with texts begging me to reconsider. I'm beginning to feel a bit guilty. Should I have been nicer to Jamie? Am I the arsehole? In the comments, Sophia Lee says, not the arsehole. You are under no obligation to babysit your nieces and nephews, especially when it's for an extended period and you have your own commitments. Your sister's behavior is unreasonable and disrespectful. Worldly Sir replies, Baby Moon? Folks are just making up holidays on the fly now, not the arsehole. Well, it's meant for first-time parents. The last time that it's just the two of you, not for a fourth kid. Well, now you phrase it that way, I realize we actually did that. 5 months pregnant, we spent a wonderful week in Rome. 10 out of 10, but I would never do it if I had other children. Well, seems like a baby moon is more of a luxury than a necessity when you already have 3 kids. Prioritizing a trip over ensuring stable care for them just feels selfish, honestly. What about gaycation? Well, only one of them can go on that. Well, that's the beauty of the gaycation. Submit or be destroyed, guys. I think you're not the asshole in this one, OP. I really think that their dad just needs to be the one to look after these kids. They got a dad. It's not like he went anywhere. They can go sort that out for themselves. Their failure to plan is not your personal emergency, not the asshole. And now, onto the update. Last night, Jamie texted me, and she seemed upset. Apparently, she had to cancel her baby moon because I rudely denied the amazing opportunity to watch her kids. However, not everything from the cancelled trip was fully refunded, so she demanded that I compensate her with the rest and also pay for a fully funded trip to Disney for her, Daniel, and the brats. She also sent me links to several things, such as a pack of Japanese, expensive diapers, baby clothes, baby shoes. What baby needs mini Asics that cost a bomb, and other stuff, totaling about $500. I didn't text back, and I blocked her. Later, Daniel called me. I didn't pick up. At about midnight, Jamie showed up at my house and dropped Melanie, her 11-year-old, off. Now I'm conflicted. Should I call the police and get Jamie in trouble, and possibly get Melanie in trouble with Jamie, or should I go to her house and sort this out myself? I really hope that I don't have to make any more updates. In the comments, Sweet Interview says, not the asshole. Call the police and tell them your sister abandoned her child and that she threatened to abandon all of her kids and disappear for multiple weeks, whether you're available or agree or not. Let them come and get the niece and her face consequences. Unless you give her consequences, she will continue to abuse you, so it's the only way to stop this for good. Take actions. She broke the law abandoning her daughter when she knew that you're against it, so let her face child services and the police for it. Also, call the dad and offer to testify to give him full custody if he wants it. Not the asshole. She essentially just abandoned her child as a way of forcing a relationship with you. Letting her get away with this will only set a shitty future precedent where she will always feel okay with just dropping them off with no warning. Call the cops. If you're feeling generous, then text her that, unless she picks up the kid in an hour, that you will call the cops and CPS on her. That's a good plan. You know, I don't think you should make any more updates on this story. I think you should just call the cops and be done with this situation. Keep her blocked and move on. Terrible situation for her to put her kids in, and maybe she shouldn't have those kids. Maybe they should go to the dad. You're still not the asshole, OP. Unexposed is by user Potential Low 8645, and it's titled, Am I the asshole for giving crappy Christmas gifts and ruining my marriage? I, 31 female, married my soon-to-be ex-husband, male 33, in 2018. My in-laws never liked me and made it clear. Soon-to-be ex insisted that they are just putting up a tough exterior and that they'll grow to love me. To show how evil they are, one time I joined them for dinner and bought a cake that I'd made because I was always raised to be a gracious guest. When I stepped into the kitchen and offered the cake to his mother as a thank you for inviting me, she took the plate over to the garbage bin, dumped it in, and handed me the plate back. When I told my husband what she did, he confronted her, and all of a sudden the crocodile tears started, and she claimed that she grabbed the plate but didn't get a good grip. I let go too quickly, and it fell to the floor, so of course it had to be thrown away. My sister-in-law confirmed that that was what happened. My soon-to-be ex owned his own business, and they called me a gold digger behind his back. Of course, they insisted on a prenup, which I didn't care about because I never thought my marriage would end, and it would appease them and may allow them to finally treat me kindly. Nope. His business failed once COVID hit. We went through his savings and my own to try to keep it afloat. I refused to go into debt to keep it going, so he closed it down. In 2022, he was suffering from really bad depression because he lost his business and couldn't find new work. He suggested that we move to his hometown, closer to his family, so that he had a larger support network. Against my best judgment, we did. He wanted to only work part-time while he tried to restart his business, so I became the main breadwinner. And as with most wives, I became the person in charge of buying gifts. Stupid old me thought buying them thoughtful, expensive gifts would finally make them see I wanted to be accepted by them. Gifts to us were a couple's gift, but clearly for my soon-to-be ex only. Every holidays was spent with them. Monthly dinners with the whole family. After a year, I realized that if I ever tried to talk or join a conversation, everyone would go quiet, so I just stopped talking when I visited. In early December, they finalized plans for Christmas. A few days later, my soon-to-be ex said that his family decided they didn't want me to join them for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas lunch because I ruined the family vibe. I replied with, "Fine, we'll do our own thing instead." My soon-to-be ex sheepishly looked away and said he still was going to go. I was livid and so disappointed in him. That was the moment that I knew that my marriage was over. So I returned the presents that I had bought for his family. In their place, I got one pair of novelty business socks for father-in-law, a supermarket brand bottle of shampoo for mother-in-law, the nastiest perfume that I could find at the dollar store for sister-in-law. The most expensive gift was a large rawhide bone for brother-in-law and his wife's chihuahua, too big for it to get its jaw around, rendering it useless. I saved about $600 to put on a deposit for a new apartment. My husband came home from Christmas lunch telling me that I humiliated him and embarrassed him in front of his family. I asked him why he would think that I'd buy nice gifts for people who clearly don't like me and don't want me around. I served divorce papers last week. Remember how he was supposed to be a millionaire by now, so we had that prenup? Soon-to-be ex is not eligible for any of my savings. It was required to keep separate accounts or alimony. He doesn't have money for rent and auto insurance, but that's not my problem anymore. Some of my friends and family are on my side and are proud that I went out in a blaze of glory. Others are telling me that I was being way too petty, which isn't really like me. So am I the asshole? In the comments, Icy Material 4387 says, "Not the asshole. He chose his family over you and still expected you to buy all the presents? This was perfectly planned and well-deserved for every one of them, including him." And OP says, "He only worked 12 hours a week at Walmart so he could do non-existent work restarting his business. I make just over 6 figures, and I can't believe that I didn't realize years ago that I was the family ATM." Not the asshole. You were treated horribly. Good riddance. Exactly. They treated her like crap. Good for her for finally walking away. Her marriage ended because of her husband's refusal to prioritize her over his toxic family, not because of some gifts. She deserves better. She handled years of mistreatment with grace, but everyone has a breaking point. Saving that $600 for herself was the best decision. Not the asshole. So thoughtful of them to insist on a prenup. I hope you send them a sincere thank you note after the divorce is finalized. OP replies, "My lawyer even laughed that the prenup that was set up for him is going to be what we use for me. It required both spouses to maintain separate bank accounts, and each spouse could keep 100% of their savings, no spouse eligible for alimony. I would say be glad that you didn't have children with him. Be glad you can escape and be free with no strings. P.S. This relationship should be a learning lesson on the love that you want for yourself and the life that you want, not as a loss." And OP says, "The first thing I did after I moved into the new apartment was adopt an older cat from the shelter. He was allergic, and I couldn't ever adopt one since we started living together. We're just two old hags living our best lives after being rejected." I think it's one of those age-old situations where eventually one or two things happen. Either they realize you are worth it, or you realize they're not. Let's hope OP and the kitty can ride off happily into the sunset after this one. Let's hope the bank of mummy and daddy can, and Sissy, don't forget, can bail him out of his financial woes. I don't know, you were treated so terribly for so many years. You deserve all the good things in life after this, OP. They never made any effort to welcome you into the family, and he never stood up for you. He never tried to bridge the gap. You did so much to try and be there for them and be a part of their family, and you were never welcomed. And then your ex has the gall to blame you for gifts that he wasn't even obviously bothered to buy himself. No, screw him, not the asshole. And now, on to the update. Many thanks to everyone for their support in my last post. I thought I'd send a small update. Firstly, for those who asked how the deposit on my new apartment was only the $600 that I saved on the gifts, it certainly wasn't. I had to dip into savings, but that $600 helped. My soon-to-be ex did not bother reaching out to me after I left until he was served the divorce papers, and my lawyer made it clear that we were exercising the prenup. Then it was loving voicemails and texts that I never picked up from him and his family for a few days, trying to convince me to come back, which eventually turned to threatening and cruel voicemails and texts when it was clear that I wasn't budging. My lawyer suggested that I don't block them so that we have evidence of harassment if needed. Basically, give them the rope to hang themselves with. But then last night, I got call after call from my soon-to-be ex. Stupidly, I picked it up, thinking that there was some kind of emergency or something. I barely got hello out when he said, "The rent is a week late." I told him that's strange because I paid my landlord 6 days ago. He paused and sighed dramatically and replied, "No, the rent for here." I reminded him that I don't live there and he should not expect rent. Cue his parents both texting me that they're going to sue me to pay the remainder of the lease entirely. I'm not worried about having an eviction on my record, since the apartment is in his parents' names. When we first announced that we were moving to his hometown, they rented an apartment for us right away so that we could move right in. They've been renewing the lease each year. We had to pay his parents, and then they write a check to the landlord, who has no idea who soon-to-be ex and I are, let alone that we lived there. Red flag, I know. I'm glad that I had a few weeks to prep my leaving, since they'd probably use the fact that it's their apartment to kick me out immediately. Divorce is probably going to be a bumpy ride with this man-child and his psycho parents. Any advice from anyone who's been through this would be welcome. In the comments, Isgo asks, "Do you even have a contract at the place that your soon-to-be ex is living? I don't think they have a basis for suing you, lol. What does your lawyer say?" And OP says, "Lawyer is confident they have no leg to stand on. I haven't signed any type of lease, and utilities are in their name too, because they were afraid of having too many names connected to the apartment and the landlord finding out. So they're on the hook for everything that doesn't get paid. But hey, that was their choice, and they're scheming. Mess around and find out. They would be stupid to sue you. They're trying to hide what sounds very much like an illegal sublet from the landlord. If they sue, then many of the reasons you might have for not telling the landlord what's going on pretty much go out the window. Even if you don't particularly want to do it, defending against a suit could necessitate it. Once the landlord finds out, if they're going to evict, they're going to evict. Not your circus, not your monkeys. Of course, the fact that they thought doing an illegal sublet was a bright idea in the first place says a fair bit all of its own. They might not consider that sort of consequence before jumping into those waters. JRM says, "Seems like you have everything under control. Best of luck. You'll need it with them." Yeah, best of luck with that, OP. Keen to see what happens with this one in the future. I would love another update on this story, I won't lie. I hope that family gets everything they signed up for. I hope the consequences of their fraudulent actions catch up to them sooner than later. Because that is a whole mess. That is a ridiculous amount of mess. There's 3 people that aren't able to pay a rent together. They invested so much into you and then abused you, and they are finding out, that is for sure. Thank you for the story, OP. Fantastic. That is peak cinema right there. Our next post is by user, oh Jesus, oh fuck, oh no, titled, "My brother, 15 male, has been lying about my, 25 male, life to my conservative, estranged parents, made fake Instagram. Help." Okay, I'll try to make this quick, but there's a lot, and I'm freaking the hell out. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. If you don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses are extremely conservative to an insane degree. I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter, if that makes sense. And my parents were not lax or exceptions for my children type. Extremely devout people, and I am gay. When I was 16, I was outed horribly by my sister, who found some gay porn that I didn't delete from my computer history. My family, of course, flipped out and demanded that I either seek conversion therapy or get out. Luckily for me, my aunt had also defected from the church, so I was able to move in with her, far away. My parents and sister immediately wanted nothing to do with me, but my brother was 6. He was too young to really grasp what was going on and had no phone or social media or anything, so I couldn't contact him. I honestly just assumed he drank the same end is nigh Kool-Aid and never sought him out. Earlier this year, I got a message from him on Facebook. It was a gigantic apology for not saying goodbye properly and that he really wanted me back in his life. Clicking through his profile, I didn't see any Jehovah's Witness proselytizing like my sisters, just pictures of him and his friends being normal teens. I was beyond happy. I messaged him back, we FaceTimed, cried, and he caught me up a little in his life, and I caught him up a little in mine. And from there, we started texting regularly. I am very, very happy about all this, but he was still living under my parents' roof and was still heavily in Jehovah's Witness culture. I was nervous about this. He always reaffirmed that he only called and texted when he wasn't in the house or around other Jehovah's Witnesses, and reaffirmed that he thought that the church was awful. Last week, something weird happened. I got an email from my mother. It was a picture from a recent Dells trip that she had taken with my family and another Jehovah's Witness family. Years of no contact and then this. What the fuck? I spent days talking this out with my friends before it occurred to me that my brother might have something to do with this. I brought up the email to my brother when I called him yesterday, barely hinting at my suspicions at all, and he unloaded. He had been lying to my parents. He said that I contacted him, apologizing, and was desperate to get back in contact with the witnesses again, but was too ashamed. But then the kicker is that he made a fake Instagram to show them. He plucked all of the G-rated pictures from my various social medias and filled it in with captions about how devout I am, how happy I am to have refound God's light, etc. He had taken pictures of me and my best friend Julie and added captions like the love of my life, my bride-to-be, etc. Like holy shit. He seemed already remorseful of this ploy, but that he was in too deep to stop now. Now, he didn't say as much, but the obvious implication here is that he thought that he could get my family back together. But this isn't a fucking sitcom or The Birdcage. He is catfishing his very emotionally unstable and religious zealot parents into thinking that their F-word outcast son was reconverting. I have no intentions of being in their life ever again, but I'd like to remain in my brother's life. And I don't want this incident to scare him off or sever the small bits of contact we have now. So what do? I'll not be recontacting my parents, nor will I pretend to be straight. Obviously, I need to tell him to close the account and stop talking about me to them, but what else, if anything? In the comments, maybe he wants grounds to escape to you. Look, bro's all fixed. I can go visit him during the summer without being banished. I don't think that it was a ploy to drag you back in, because he wasn't trying to convert you. He was trying to deceive them. If this could help him have a sane and safe outlet, that would be great. He may also really miss you and just wish you could be unbanished, but you obviously shouldn't have to put on an act to go home. Entirely, fuck that. But the poor kid is trapped, and odd coping mechanisms are to be expected, really. I'm most curious about what his intentions were. And Darth Ugly says, I'm on the same line as you. Maybe the brother doesn't want to lose contact with OP, and by lying about who contacted who, he is safe to continue to speak with OP. Given that he's underaged and his safety may be at risk, I would simply have a conversation with him about how you love him, but you don't want any more contact with your parents at all, because they don't accept you for who you are. And you will continue to be, because that's the way that God, if there is a God, made you. Tell him to stop posting to the Instagram. Be very careful what he says to your parents, and that you'll be there for him when and if he needs you if he should choose to leave the church. Don't respond to your parents. Let them think whatever they think. Wait a while and report the fake accounts to Instagram to be sure that it gets shut down. Dial back the contact a little and then go about your life. And now, onto the update 3 days later. Thank you all for your illuminating comments. I'm honestly overwhelmed at the response and apologize for not replying much. It was so much. But I'd like to specifically thank user MyMan for his comment, which suggested that this was not him trying to rope me back in, but him trying to escape the cult. You were exactly right. Today we talked for the first time since our conversation. He took down the Insta after our conversation, which I hadn't noticed at the time of writing the post, and I gently asked why exactly he did this. He's 15, so he didn't quite have the language to say, I'm being abused and need to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses. What he said instead was that mum and dad are crazy and he's become disillusioned with the cult. He even used the word cult. He still believes in God and wants to explore different sects of Judeo-Christianity. My hometown is a small place in the Midwest, and everyone knows who the Jehovah's Witnesses are. They're like those people. So he couldn't covertly go to another service without someone recognizing him and it getting back to my parents. His motive was pretty much what the user MyMan said. He said he wants to visit, hang out, and explore the religions around Chicago, but the only way my parents would allow him to leave town is if they knew exactly where he was, who he was with the whole time, etc. So in his head, propping me up as converted was the only way to make it happen. I told him that I was completely uncomfortable with that, and that my relationship with my parents is over. He apologized, and pretty much already knew the logistical problems. I think this was a very maturing ordeal for him. I established myself as a lifeline. I told him that if it ever gets too much, I'll pay for his train tickets and he can stay with me for as long as he likes, even moving in for the remainder of high school. And I mean it, I have enough space, and my aunt will help with childcare and extra expenses. He seemed apprehensive, but the thought is out there, and he now seems comfortable enough to vent about the church, my parents, and my crazy-ass sister directly. As for my parents, I just told him to cold turkey, stop talking about me if they ask, and this was suggested by Julie, my bride-to-be. He will tell them that I might have refound Christianity, but I have no intentions to return to the Watchtower, and that he stopped talking to me. Leaving Jehovah's Witnesses for any reasons is grounds for excommunication, and I put my actual Insta on private in case they go looking. They might think I'm not gay, might now have the sliver of hope that I'll return to them, but that's honestly not my fucking problem. And for the guys who suggested that this was a honeypot, no. No 15-year-old can act this well. He is so full of love and kindness, and as fucked up as his plan was, at the end of the day, it was because he is panicking in a toxic environment. Thank you all again. My brother is back in my life, and I now have the means to help him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In the comments, a downvoted commenter says, pretty sure I'll be downvoted for this, but it's lame as hell that you won't go along with it just so that your brother can have somewhere safe to go when he needs to. No one said you need to be best buddies with your parents again, and them having kicked you out for any reason is a good reason to not have to befriend them. And OP says, the logistical problems are insurmountable. What if, instead of sending a 15-year-old alone on a trip with a previously gay son, they all make a trip? What if they try to contact me? Meet my wife? Again, this isn't the birdcage. And the point of the birdcage is that you can't hide who you are, even if it is to earnestly help a loved one. Annie Pebble says, I'm so glad that they kept the line of communication open, that the two of them have access to each other still, especially since their sister is so stuck. I really empathized with him mentioning the internet connecting him to the world outside the cult. I grew up in a cult-adjacent evangelical church, and it was the same for me. Going along with the lie sounds like the right thing to do in theory, but no way in hell the parents would just let the younger son go to stay with the older without so much as a phone call. But that's the thought-through plan of a 15-year-old. Here's hoping the kid gets out. Here's hoping he got out too, you know? It's very much not an easy situation, and in some respects, it is above Reddit's pay grade. But I still think it is worth putting the advice out there for those that need it, because obviously, as OP has said, it did help. And knowing that you have support, even just from random people on the internet, can help you do leaps and bounds more than if you're just doing it alone. I think moral support is some of the best support you can get. Am I the asshole here for my response to my boyfriend's ultimatum over audiobooks? My boyfriend and I have been together for around 3 years, and we've had a pretty easygoing relationship. No big fights or anything, until now, which is why I'm questioning myself so much. So I listen to audiobooks, not erotic ones, though I do partake in audio-only porn sometimes, because, as becomes important later, I have a thing for nice voices. But somehow, someone just reading smut off a page feels weird for me to listen to. No judgment to anyone else, of course, just not my thing. My boyfriend has recently gotten a bug up his ass about me listening to them, especially when he's home, even though I always use headphones and do my best not to disturb him. Also, before anyone says it, my Audible account comes directly out of my own bank account. He has no reason to think that it'll affect his finances. Anyway, he only ever gave little snide remarks until the latest time, so I let it go. Most recently, I had been making us dinner and cleaning up behind myself as I did it, and because he was playing video games, and I get bored doing those kinds of things without something else to think about, I turned on my favorite audiobook and picked up where I had been listening the week before. I didn't realize that he was in the kitchen until he jerked the cord on my headphones and asked if I was doing it again. I asked what he was talking about, and he just sighed and said that he needed to talk to me. We sat down, and I'll admit I was pretty pissed that he had jerked on my headphones and not super willing to listen to anything right then and there. Another reason why I might be an asshole. He said that it really bothered him when I listened to audiobooks from a man's perspective because he knows about my voice thing and that it makes him uncomfortable. I asked why, and he said that he couldn't get it out of his head that I was thinking sexual things about the characters and that, along with the romantic elements, made him really upset and felt almost like I wasn't fully committed to him. I asked if he realized I was listening to a book for teens written by a literal Mormon, and that none of the books that I listened to have smut. He said that it didn't matter, and started getting angry again, which just made me angrier, and he dropped the ultimatum that he wanted to stop or else we would need to break up. I was so pissed at this moment that I just shrugged and said, "Gladly. The minute that you stop watching porn, I'll never touch any of it again." Which had him pissed because he claimed that he never said anything about porn, only the romantic and sexual parts of the books that I listened to. I said that if he was allowed to make ultimatums of favorite pastimes, why can't I? Then I asked if he would rather give up video games, since that's closer to what audiobooks mean to me. He ended up just saying to effing forget it and went to bed, but has been pissed at me since. I talked to my friends about the situation and got mixed answers, so I wanted to try with strangers as well. In the comments, Belcy says, "This is a big red flag to me. Is he so insecure that he can't stand the idea of you listening to another man? You weren't even listening to anything provocative when he did this, and he had that kind of reaction. Where is all his anger coming from? The fact that he dropped an ultimatum, books for F's sake, or breaking up, is insane to me. This seems like such an odd thing for him to want to have control over. You're wearing headphones, not listening to it on speakerphone, and you are minding your own business, and he has the audacity to be upset that you're doing that? Personally, I would cut ties. But if you feel like he's a good partner to you in other aspects, and he isn't controlling about other things that you do, i.e., what you wear, who you hang out with, etc., then maybe try talking it out when he is calm." And OP says, "He did try to explain that he felt as if I reacted to the romantic parts in ways that I don't react to him, which almost made sense, but then all I can think of is, yeah, of course I do. This kind of romantic thing doesn't exist in real life, and I don't expect it to, but to hear about it is enough to make me blush or laugh because it's cute. I've never expected him to be an over-the-top romantic. I don't think that I would enjoy it in real life. It would more than likely overwhelm me. But I do like to hear about it, I guess. This part makes me feel a little bit bad because at the time I was so angry about the headphone pulling. I don't know why it set me off so bad. No one has ever done it to me before, but for some reason it had me pissed. I couldn't even react to it like I should have. I honestly maybe should have asked to wait, the more I think about it." Belzy replies, "He put his hands on you, girl. He's getting mad over fictional characters and stories. I'd think long and hard about what you want to do going forward." Wailing Wonder says, "He's crazy, and anyone that tells you otherwise is crazy. You were cooking and cleaning while he was playing. If he is so insecure about a random guy reading a book, then maybe he could have been in there working on dinner with you. You were being neglected, so of course you got bored. Note, sure, it's okay for one person to work while the other one chills, as long as it's not always the same person, and as long as it works for the relationship. He could have kept you company. He could have been the voice in your ear. He could have fought his insecurity by coming up behind you and kissing your neck and taking your mind off the book. Something sexy. But he decided the best choice was to be as unsexy as possible and aggressively jerk your headphones and whine. You can see the red flags, right, OP? You don't need us, right? Not the asshole." And OP says, "I usually cook for us. He can't cook worth a damn. And I enjoy it, so I do that. He does other chores though. I hate doing anything in the bathroom, but he doesn't mind, so anything to do with that is his. And he takes care of the garbage and the car. I mostly handle anything in the kitchen and laundry and such. I wish he would do something like that, but he's just not spontaneous or really romantic. I don't mind it really. Most guys aren't, and he's great in other aspects. When it comes to red flags, I didn't think of it in that way, but I can tell you that it certainly made my temper spike in a way that it hasn't since I was in high school." And Wailing Wonder replies, "I'm not using Reddit's favorite word, run, but he was acting crazy. My point wasn't really about the division of labor. I didn't know what that was between you two, but more about what he could do to try to overcome his insecurities and to give you a chance to show him that you are fully committed. If he lets his insecurities consume him and takes it out on you, then that's just going to get worse and more toxic over time. Maybe this argument will end up blowing over, and you'll forget it and never deal with this problem again. But if you are my in-real-life friend, then I'd be a bit worried for you. He needs to figure out how to deal with these feelings and how to communicate properly." And OP says, that's fair. I do try very hard to show my commitments to him, but there may be some wires crossing in our communication. I'm an acts of service person, more than anything, including words. But maybe I can try something else. If he needs to hear me say the things that I'm feeling out loud more often than I do now, then I can do that. I don't mind changing tactics to make him more secure in the relationship if that's what he needs. I don't mean to make him feel insecure. The more I think about my reaction, the more guilty I feel, because at first it was, how dare you try to take things away from me? But now it's more, sure, that was a shitty way to bring it up, but it sounds like he's been really bothered and I just got defensive and mean instead of listening to him at all. But then I get mad about the jerking my headphones thing again. I really don't know why, but that shit made my blood boil. It's complicated, and it's hard for me to know what to do. And Wailing Wonder says, just keep in mind that you can't overcome his securities for him. You can help, sure, but he's got to do most of the work if he wants to grow as a person. I do think that his actions of yanking the headphones out were worrying, because that to me is definitely an indication of a escalation. If I were to put myself in OP's shoes and my partner just yanks the headphones out of my ears aggressively like that, that feels like an attack. I don't think that's something you do to someone that you care about, especially over something as minor as this. I can see, specific cases being acceptable, like if they're about to walk into traffic, they're not paying attention, I'm gonna yank the headphones out and be like, what are you doing? But in this case, when it's just completely to do with his insecurities, and then everything else OP has said about their relationship, I don't know. I see a lot of red flags, and I don't think OP is the problem here, so I'm going to go with not the asshole. And now, onto the update, about 2 months later. So it's been a while, and I didn't think that I would update, because the original update would have been mostly us talking and working things out, agreeing that whenever he felt insecure, he could tell me, and I could focus my attention on him for a while. It worked really great. Well, until I found out that he had been fucking his coworker, that is. I don't have the details, and I don't want the details, but he admitted to it in the end. So he did it. And that's enough. He wanted to work it out and apologized, begged for a second chance, but honestly, the idea that he said a word to me about an audiobook about Edward frickin' Cullen while he was getting strange on the side? It killed any opportunity for forgiveness that I had inside of me. It was so ridiculous that I laugh thinking about it now, and it's been a month since we broke up. Like, it makes me feel insane, it is so funny. He was yelling at me for listening to a book about Mormon vampires while he was cheating on me. I cannot make this shit up. 100 points to whoever said projection the first time I posted. I can't remember if it was a comment or a message, but you were right. I wish I had a cookie. Thanks for the help anyway. Even if the relationship is a bust now, I really do appreciate you all. In the comments, Feral 2021 Energies says, I'm so glad she didn't give him a chance and kicked his ass to the curb like it belongs. Now she has more time and money to get more audiobooks. One thing I've learned, when a guy is cheating or wants out of a relationship, they start a fight, or try to, regarding some weird shit. No Names Where says, quote, I didn't realize that he was in the kitchen until he jerked the cord on my headphones. Should have broken up right at that point. No further discussion was needed. Exactly. She kept saying how she couldn't understand why it set her off so bad, but the reason is because it's extremely aggressive, disrespectful, and infuriating. What an absolute dick. Yeah, like I said, unless there's a very good reason to be doing so, I think that is also grounds for just breaking off the relationship there, especially if it is as unequal as OP described in further comments there. What a piece of shit he was, and OP is so much better off without. Our next post is by user Blueberry Pie 1109, titled, Am I the asshole for walking out when I saw my ex-boyfriend? Okay, so I'm 21, female, and my ex-boyfriend is 20. 3 days ago, my best friend invited me to celebrate Thanksgiving with her and our other friends. We were able to invite partners, siblings, etc. My older sister, 24, arrived before I did. So a little over a while later, she texted me, but I was driving and my phone was on Do Not Disturb, so I couldn't read her message. Plus, I don't want to risk getting a ticket. And also, before I left my house, she called me and said that she drove to my best friend's house an hour earlier because best friend needed help with something and I don't know what it was. Well, when I finally arrived to my best friend's house, I parked in the driveway and got out, and I made sure to double check if I had locked my car or not before I headed inside. The door was unlocked, and I didn't need to knock because my best friend says that we aren't strangers and that she trusted me most. Aw, sweet, but either way, I still texted her to let her know that I had arrived, and she reacted with a thumbs up. I opened the door, walked inside, and closed it behind me. I walked inside the living room, and no one was there. I then went to the dining room, and everyone was sitting there while some were setting up the table, placing plates, forks, spoons, napkins, etc. However, when I took a few steps inside the dining room, I saw my ex sitting on the side of the table where I could clearly see his face, and my brain really said, "Oh, hell no." And without thinking for a second, I turned around, opened the front door, and walked out. I still had my shoes on, so I was quick to leave. I thought that no one saw me, but when I got into my car and started the engine, I heard my best friend shouting my name. I know this might sound rude, but I didn't even glance at her and drove off immediately. I got a few texts from my best friend, but I didn't hear any notifications because I had my phone on Do Not Disturb. But when I did, I was already home and received like 10 plus messages from her, and they were all pretty much the same. "Hey OP, why did you leave so suddenly? Dinner hasn't started yet and you're already gone. Where did you go? Did something urgent happen? Why did you leave?" She's acting as if my ex wasn't there, like, girl, was I being paranoid or was my ex really there? I just left her unread and haven't spoken to her or anyone else yet. Even today when she called me, I didn't answer. The thing is, my sister. I forgot about her, and I haven't heard from her yet. I did text her before I wrote this post, but she hasn't responded yet, so in the meantime, I'll be waiting for her response. Oh, and the message that she had sent me said, "Yo, OP, your ex just arrived with my best friend's name's brother. Did you know that he was coming?" I responded with no. Edit, the dining room and the living room are in front of each other. For example, dining room on the left, living room on the right. If any of you have any other questions, feel free to ask. In the comments, Marathon Rabbit says, "Just be open about it. My ex was there and I just noped out. Figured no one needed that drama." OP says, "I want to tell her about him, but I didn't know what came over me that made me shut up. But I did text her today and she hasn't responded yet." Fun Scene says, "One would think that your best friend would know that you wouldn't be comfortable being around your ex. Your best friend's brother is the asshole for bringing him, and frankly, your best friend is a bit of an asshole for not making him leave, and then pretending like she didn't know why you left. She absolutely knew why you left, and a real best friend would have warned you." And OP says, "I didn't think of this, to be honest. Thank you for telling me. I'm gonna have a talk with her eventually." This is not a friend. She knew that he was there and didn't warn you. It doesn't matter if she invited him, she probably did, or if she knew someone else brought him, she knew. She knew that you broke up and wouldn't want to spend a holiday with him. She set you up to create drama. She is not a friend or a good person. And OP says, "Thank you. I'm starting to think about it now, and it's actually quite confusing to me. She never hid anything from me before, but now that she did, I feel like there's something wrong." I don't think you're the asshole for walking out. I do agree that your best friend was setting up some drama and is acting dumb in this situation. I'd love to know her side of the story and what she thinks she was doing, but I think she's going to lie to you and omit details so that she looks like she's innocent here. But I don't know how she could just ignore the fact that the ex was there and pretend like everything should be hunky-dory. I don't know, strange, not the asshole OP. And now, onto the update, 2 months later. OP rehashes the entire story here, but basically she goes over a text message that she sent to her friend 2 to 3 days later. So, I only responded about 2 to 3 days later because I couldn't believe what had just happened. In the text I said, "Hey blank, Why didn't you tell me that blank, my ex, was gonna be there? In fact, why would you or anyone invite him knowing damn well what he did to me in the past? Welp, she didn't know what to say to that and left me on scene for a couple of hours before texting me back, apologizing and saying that she didn't know that he was coming. I told her that that was bullshit and that she knew damn well that he was gonna be there. She still hadn't answered me yet. On to the update. Sorry to disappoint, but nothing much happened. After I sent that text, she never bothered to reply. Before I even knew it, she blocked me. Why? I don't know. Maybe she's hiding something from me. I know that I shouldn't be saying that and suspecting her, considering us still being best friends, but I can't help it. I've never heard from her or seen her again. I tried asking our mutual friends about her, and they all said that they didn't hear anything from her ever since that day. Yes, I told them what happened and how it ended. Some girls even said that she had blocked them on the same day that she blocked me. Now the only one who possibly knows where she's at and or why she isn't responding to anyone is her brother. But I don't feel comfortable texting him, and I don't think that I have the courage to. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's been nearly 2 months, and I'm still blocked. I'll post again if something happens, but for now, I'll just continue enjoying life with my boyfriend. If anyone has any questions to ask, please do. I don't bite. I like reading y'all's opinions, especially the ones who offer advice. Thanks for reading. In the comments, Harvey Snake says, either your ex is now dating your ex-best friend, or this was some stupid attempt to get you back together with him. Sounds like your sister stayed. You may want to ask her how things looked between the ex and best friend. And OP says, damn, that first line sounds harsh. I've never experienced such thing, and I don't ever want to, but I'll take your word for it. My sister said that he just stayed there chatting with the others, but nothing more. Your sister will know if he is dating your ex-friend. I would just keep asking her until she comes clean. Not wanting to know would be the best flex, actually. Who cares what those two nobodies are up to? Life is good with boyfriend and no complications. No Use says, she's dating your ex, not the asshole. Also, your ex has found your post, sadly. OP says, that's creepy, not gonna lie, but I don't care if it was either my ex or my best friend. I said what I said, and if they don't like it, they are free to do so. Yup. Former boyfriend is dating your ex-best friend. She's not your friend, and nothing of value was lost. Why would she invite her friend to Thanksgiving? To rub it in her face or something? That's psycho behavior. I say good riddance, and it's a good thing that she basically removed herself from the friend group. She took her own trashy self out to the bin. Yeah, some people just like starting drama like that, and it's best to just avoid them, ignore them, and stay away from them. To me, it reads as though the ex-best friend just wanted the attention of a dramatic blow-up. And the worst thing that can happen in a situation for them is that they don't get the reaction they want. So I'm glad that OP immediately left and didn't give them that reaction. Good job, thumbs up. Still not the asshole. Our next post is by user GoldGoal, titled, would I be the asshole here if I disowned my parents after my mum refused to take care of me after I give birth? So I, 28 female, am 30 weeks pregnant with my first child and am about to move to another state. And my mum has this thing where she takes care of my siblings when they give birth until they recover. She has done it for my older sister and my brother's wife, so I thought that she would do the same thing for me too. But a week ago, she told me that she couldn't because it's too far away. We got into a fight about the whole thing, and I told her to get out of my house, and now we are not talking. Before you judge me and say that my mum isn't obligated to take care of me, I will tell you that it isn't about my mum taking care of me. It was never about that. I am the one child in the family who nobody really cares about. My parents always claim that they love and treat us all equally, but man, is it obvious that they love me a little bit less than the others. I always thought that maybe I'm adopted and that's why they don't care about me that much. Well, I'm wrong because I'm 100% theirs. It is always about how my other siblings are doing or how mum and dad are suffering, but it is never about me. It was never about me from the beginning. I am rarely celebrated, even if it's supposed to be my day. My birthdays? They are rarely celebrated because mum and dad forgot, or they just threw everything in the house and called it a birthday. High school graduation party? Nope. My parents have always wasted a lot of money for my big brother's college graduation party, so they can't do that, but they'll make sure to make it up to me. Do you think that ever happened? I'll give you a minute or two. If you guessed no, then congrats, you guessed right. Yay! They shared the wedding expenses of my siblings' wedding, but since my husband came from a good family, they don't have to share the wedding expenses. Not my words. I have always been the therapist who listens to my mum and dad's rough day, or the one who needs to help my mum because my older siblings have a lot of schoolwork to do, or because my younger siblings are too young to do that kind of work. They always tell me that I'm a good daughter, but I am never the one who they brag about to their friends. I did everything in my power to make them proud, but my achievements will always be below my siblings. I've tried to talk to them about how I feel multiple times before, but the only thing I get is a hard scolding about how I was always getting spoiled. I hated my life until I got out of that house, but I never had the courage to let go of them, thinking that they would change. Well, my mum just proved me wrong. Mind you that my older sister lives a whole ass ocean away from us, but mum decided that taking a 10+ hour flight to another continent twice was not hard at all. But all of a sudden, taking a 4-hour ride to my home was too much? Especially when I'm in a place where I don't know anyone except my husband. I am so fucking tired of them putting everyone else above me. So I'll make things right between us until I leave, because I don't want to end things on a bad note. And when I get to my new house, I'll just cut all contact between us. I don't think that I have the energy to do all of this crap anymore, and besides, I have my lovely husband with me. So I'll be alright and will build myself a new family where I am truly appreciated and loved for who I am. Note, I am the third out of 5 children. My younger siblings are twins. In the comments, Nana Leone says, "Not the arsehole. Yes, I agree with you. Make nice with your mum while you're visiting this time, and minimize contact when you get back to your own home. It could be that your mother wants you to beg and plead, 'Oh, mummy, pretty please come help me, I need you.' But my reaction is, F that game playing. Put your energy into your husband and build a new support network where you'll live now." Not the arsehole. Put them on a strict information diet. Stay off socials, inform your husband and his family that you want nothing to be posted on social media. Do not let them know when the baby is born or when you go into labor. Do not answer the phone, respond to email, texts, etc. Put them on a ban list at the hospital if you have to. Gather more evidence of them singling you out, and then when asked by others, you give them the full story. Maybe shame will cure them. Not the arsehole. It sounds like your parents have taken you for granted, and now they're doing the same thing to your child? No. Stand proud of your decision. The people you allow in your child's life should be the people who value them. Not the arsehole. I wouldn't bother to make things right with her. Just leave the ball in her court. You didn't do anything wrong, so you aren't the one who needs to make things right. If you have a good relationship with your mother-in-law, ask her to come help out when the baby is born. Congratulations on realizing things will never change with them. It'll actually give you some peace. Unfortunately, I speak from experience. Build your own family, because that's what I did. Congratulations on the baby. It's insane that she'll fly to another continent twice, but won't drive 4 hours. I don't blame you, Opie. I don't blame you for cutting them off entirely if you do that. As they say, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So you go start that new covenant, Opie. And maybe, just maybe, shame will cure them, but I think it's unlikely. I think they do deserve a chance to make things right if you have an honest conversation with them and you put your heart on the table, but I don't know. At this point, I don't think they care enough to change, even when told what they are doing is wrong. Not the arsehole. And now onto the update, 2.5 months later. Hello. First, I would like to thank everyone for their kind advice. I was honestly shocked when I saw all of these messages. I really appreciate it. A lot has happened since my last post. I tried to call my parents, but they blocked, and I couldn't reach them, but I was determined on getting the closure that the younger version of me wanted. So I called my older brother, and I asked him if we could meet up and talk about the situation. He told me that he won't meet up with me after what I've done to our mother, and he berated me, saying that I was an ungrateful person and that Mum is in a lot of stress and pain because of me. I told him that it wasn't fair for him to just assume that I was the villain and that he couldn't even understand my point of view because they didn't treat him like they treated me my whole life. He knew that they treated me like their personal chef, maid, and therapist for years, but they couldn't even give me the love and attention that I wanted for once in my whole damn life. He basically screamed at me through the phone that I was a piece of trash for saying that, and that Mum and Dad treated us all equally, but I was just a damn narcissist who can't think about anyone but myself. I tried to talk, but my emotions got the better of him, and I started breaking down on the phone, and he hung up on me. I even started asking myself if I was really the narcissist that my family seemed to think of me. But my husband came to the rescue and helped me through all of this, but the doubt that maybe I was in the wrong still lingered in my head. I guess my brother told my parents that I called him because Dad called about 2 days after that and asked me to meet up at their house. I was about to say no, but I couldn't because his voice was filled with remorse, so I thought that maybe, just maybe, we could get past the whole thing and I could drop the thought of cutting contact even if my mum doesn't want to help out. After like 3 days of talking to my dad, my husband and I went to their house to talk. I thought that it was going to be me, my husband, and my parents talking, but they invited my brother and his wife. As soon as we sat, my dad started talking about how disappointed he was with me and that things shouldn't have led to this. I told him that he was right, that things should not have escalated to be where they are now, but I assumed that since Mum helped take care of my sister and my brother's wife, she would do the same for me. But she just favored everyone else above me, and it was infuriating. I told them about how I felt for the past years, and I told them everything that I said to you guys. But all of them acted like they didn't care, which honestly hurt like hell. I knew at that moment that I didn't mean anything to them, so why was I fighting to be a part of a family that didn't want me? My husband was going to speak, but I told him not to. Everyone gave their opinions about it, basically blaming me, and then Dad asked me if I wanted to say anything to Mum. I told her that I was sorry, because I didn't want any type of bad blood between us before I close this chapter and move on with my life, but she didn't say anything back, and Dad said that we needed some time cooling off and setting some boundaries. And I guess that was it between us. In the next 2 weeks, we were packing and leaving the state. I didn't tell anyone about where my new house will be. Only once I got there and settled down did I write a long message about everything they did and how I felt, and at the end of the message I told them that I was completely cutting contact with my parents and older brother. I changed my phone number and blocked all of my family from my social media, and you know what? My life has never been this peaceful in a long time. I am happy about everything, and my baby will arrive any day now. It is honestly stressing, but I love it so much. We hired a helper around the house, because why not? Now my day consists of sleep, taking a walk, eat some more, have back and hip pains, and repeat. Which honestly isn't that bad. Thank you for reading. In the comments, Maggie Stardust says, the other siblings will get in touch as soon as one of your parents needs someone to take care of them. Don't do it. Cold Gold says, I was the kid that was treated like OP in my family. It even involved weird rules that only applied to me. It sucked, but at least my siblings could see and acknowledge that it was a thing. When I decided that I had had enough and went very low contact with my dad in particular, it took a little over a week before my siblings started calling. It seems once he could not treat me like he had been, my father moved on to my siblings, and they could not handle being treated in the same way. Peter095837 says, cutting contact from those parents is the best option to stay away from conflict. It won't do anything good for OP's mental health and life. Best wishes for OP, her husband, and her child. Not just the parents. Obviously the brother has proven that he's a piece of shit too. I'm glad she's blocked all of them. Nothing to be gained from a family like that. The whole family, to be honest. Even the other siblings were heaping blame on her. But that whole dynamic falls apart when the designated scapegoat disappears or cuts contact. Methinks they'll either turn on one of the ones left or come crawling back, begging, screaming, threatening grandparents' rights or some bullshit to get her back on the boat, so to speak. And yeah, good on OP. You know, they always do some stupid shit like that. They always say, oh, grandparents' rights, we're gonna sue you for that. Go on then. I dare you. I double dare you. And OP, I triple dog dare you to write another update to this post once they come crawling out of the woodwork, because I would love that. But otherwise, you handled this situation fantastically, and I hope all is well with you and the baby. All the best going forward, and thank you for the story. My boyfriend said he will never marry me. How do I proceed? For context, I, female 35, have been with my boyfriend, male 40, for almost 2 years now. Throughout our relationship, he has only been the most attentive, loving, and thoughtful partner. We share house chores, he would buy me little gifts every now and then, he would call me every day while I'm on my way home from work, he always talks about me with his mates, etc. Like, I can't even find a single irritable thing about this guy. Well, except he won't marry me because he promised his late wife that she will be his only wife. She passed away 6 years ago from illness, and he was pretty messed up for 3.5 years. After lots of therapy and working on himself, he gradually opened up, and we met through a board game group. He never really spoke about her until we became serious. According to him, she was the one that made him believe in true love and the idea of a soulmate. He also claims that he has moved on, but to honor her memory and promise to her, he will never have a second wife. After we discussed this, he's never mentioned her again. It's our 2nd anniversary soon, and I'm just thinking about what I want in my life. I'd really like to get married. I want someone to propose to me, and I want a groom with tears in his eyes as he sees me walking down the aisle. I love this man with all my heart, and he has given me everything that I could ever want in a husband, except he won't be my husband. I honestly don't know what to do. I know it's a common thing to be partners in all but paper, but I guess I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I feel like maybe deep down inside of him, I'm still second to her. How do I navigate this? In the comments, LollipopFiend123 says, if you want marriage, then unfortunately you're not compatible. Agree. Be honest with yourself and your partner. Have the difficult conversation. You'll either learn to grow together or make the necessary decisions with all information possible. Floppy Bunny says, you want to get married, he doesn't. Unfortunately, that makes the two of you incompatible, which means you break up. He isn't going to give you what you need. I would be afraid of constantly living in his deceased wife's shadow. If he's that committed to not marrying because of her, you're not going to find long-term happiness with him. If it is the real reason, he is still grieving her and is not emotionally available. It's not just the fact that for him, marriage is off the table, it's more him telling you about his true love and soulmate, and that he will not get married because he promised her. Do what is best for you now. I'd personally respect his choice, but would not be committed to this relationship. I would treat him well, but as a temporary partner, and wouldn't feel obligated to try to save the relationship, to work on the differences, to suppress my feelings to someone else, to refuse an awesome job opportunity in another city, etc. Tinkerbell Rock'n'Rolls replies, your answer makes a lot of sense, except one thing. At 35, she doesn't have time for a temporary partner. If she wants to have biological children, she needs to exit this mess yesterday so that she can find her husband and get to it. And Rich Ad says, oh babe, I'm sorry, this is heartbreaking. I'm sad he lost his wife whom he clearly loved dearly. I'm sad for you, as it sounds like you'll always be in her shadow instead of the one who brought him back into the light. I'm sad that you're going to have to break your own heart to stay true to your worth, and I'm sad that he's going to be too late when he realizes he lost not one, but 2 women who loved him. It's a sad situation all around, but the reality is that many situations are sad and there's no easy answers. I'm on the same bandwagon train of thought, I guess, that a lot of other people are, that he will forever be putting you second because he's made a promise to her and he feels like he's always going to keep it. On the balance of probabilities, to me, that's the most likely thing to happen. It's been 6 years and he's saying this to you now. It's very, very unlikely he's ever going to let that go. If she's his soulmate, then you never will be. Stop wasting your time. It's time to move on. If you want biological kids, you gotta go find someone else. It's not easy, and it's never going to be easy. But if there's things that you want that he's holding you back from, you have to be the one to leave. And now, on to the update. So a lot of people shared their view with me in the previous post, so I thought of sharing an update. As I expected, he is adamant in his stance. He was also a bit upset that I made him bring up the topic of his late wife, as he doesn't like talking about her. I think he just doesn't like remembering that she's dead. But he also understood that I could have doubts about his commitment and where I stand in his life. I'm not quoting him exactly, but he said something like this: "My words have meaning, and because of this, you know that when I make a promise, I mean it. I said that I will stay with you forever, so I will stay with you forever. If you want a ring, I will give you a ring. If you want to wear a pretty dress, we can get you a pretty dress. But please, don't make me go against my word, because if I do, nothing I say will mean anything anymore. I could promise to love you, and maybe stop loving you one day, and you cannot hold it against me. Mary was my first love after a string of broken relationships. I love the way I love because I learnt it from her. I am who I am because of what I have experienced before. Please understand that sort of impact in my life. I have never compared you to her. I have never actively brought her up in our conversations. I don't even keep mementos of her in our home. I know he keeps them in the bank, out of respect for you. So why do you question my commitment towards you?" I honestly don't know how to respond at the end of that. My mind went completely blank, and I felt like an idiot. I bawled my eyes out, and he just comforted me. We live in a country where de facto partners have the same legal rights as a married couple, so I wasn't worried about those issues. I guess I just really needed to hear him affirm his feelings towards me. Those who commented that I merely want a wedding could be right as well. Maybe what I wanted was just the grandiosity of a wedding, so that's something that I have to think about. And also, I won't lie that I was extremely jealous of his late wife. Resentment for her is definitely something that I should also think about. Someone said couples therapy, but I think the one that actually needs therapy is me. But yeah, that's about it. I'm probably staying because I know he loves me and I do love him. Lots of introspection for myself from here on out. Thank you everyone for your kind comments and suggestions. I hope you have a lovely day. In the comments, Timely Egg Tart says, "I swear all the widow relationship posts in Reddit sound like a nightmare." Don't they? But then if people say they're not up for a widow relationship, people act like they're putting kittens in a wood chipper. That made me laugh so hard. You're right, it is a total mess. I'm a widow and my boyfriend is a widow. Only a widower can understand what my life is now. That said, this dude won't get married because he made a promise to his dead wife. That's wild. If she didn't want him to marry again, I'm pretty sure she would not love that he's banging OP. People are weird. If you date the widowed, you have to be okay with accepting that the dead person likely left on good terms, and you need to respect that they existed, and the kids, if any, need you to respect their dead parent. That's a lot, and it takes a certain kind of person, But there are crazy and weird widows just like there are bizarre people / don't put up with their crap just because they are widowed. Just toss that kitten in the wood chipper and call it a day. Oh my god. Why does that have to be the phrase to relate it to? What the hell? 92PJs says, I feel like if marriage is what you want, you should end this relationship sooner than later. You said you're staying, but I feel like you can't easily get rid of a desire to get married. It could nag you for a long time, and your resentment will grow. Exactly. And there is nothing wrong with wanting to get married. Don't let your boyfriend make you think so just because he doesn't want to. You chose a broken pot and it doesn't want to hold any water. Can you accept it for what it is? If you really need water, then you need to let that pot go very gently. Nope. I did this once too. And there is nothing more soul-crushing than watching someone you love neglect your needs for someone who isn't around to care. Promises like that aren't made for late exes, they are made for themselves. The late ex is not doing it to you, he is doing it to you. And he's still making you suffer because someone unfortunately passed. Even if you try to make this work, you're going to get tired of being neglected when you're the one who is there. You are going to eventually feel like that, even though you've been around him longer than their relationship. If you stick around that long, then you're still not going to be enough for him to move on into the next chapter of life with. And even then, if somehow you're convinced to be okay with this, you get to watch later in life, when it's his turn to go, and you hope to be at his bedside to hold his hand through it, you get to be locked out of that room and forced to wait in the waiting room with no idea what is going on because no one will answer any of your questions, and all you can do is wait. He's not just condemning you to be viewed as essentially less valuable, but he's also condemning you to a fate of loneliness and loss greater than what he has experienced, all because he fails to understand that marrying someone and moving forward in life with someone is not a replacement for a previous person, but an entirely different experience that is new and is not the same. This is not okay. It's not fair to you, and from my own experience, I feel very strongly that you're emotionally being taken advantage of, and you're in a position to be gaslit and blamed however you feel about this. You get tired of it, and then you're too pushy, but if he gives you what you want, then it's your fault he decides to lie and cheat. Get mad at him for wasting your time, and he gets to claim that he's always been the nice guy and told you how it is. And that ambiguously threatening, if you make me into a dishonorable person, no good to my word, if you do this to me. Fucking man up, dude, and stop making someone accountable for your own choices. Yes, in adult life sometimes people make promises they realize they can't keep. Yes, that is life. I promised to never break up with my high school boyfriend. Surprise, I'm 40 and I'm not with my high school boyfriend. But that doesn't mean that my whole life is a lie. I'm sorry you're going through this, OP. I really feel for you. And this thread in particular triggers me because I went through 4 years of this in a relationship that lasted longer and had more life events than what the dude with his late ex did. But for all the times I held him when he cried, all the sacrifices I gave, all the love that I poured into it, and all the times that I put his needs first, from taking care of his senile dementia mother who wouldn't stop threatening me, to risking myself pulling his dog out of a fire, always having his back, it was never enough to finally accept building a legitimate future and all the privileges that come with it. You don't get the house shopping. You don't get to be in the know during emergencies. You don't get the, oh, it's so nice to meet his wife when he starts a new job. You get, if you were such a great girlfriend, then why doesn't he marry you? And the, nope, we're not going to discuss procedures and costs with you because you're just a girlfriend. And if you stick around long haul until end of life, either it's you can't take time off work to mourn his passing because bereavement leave is for family only, and you also need to find a new place to live because that's his house and his family decided to run the eviction process on you. So now you're homeless, mourning, still have to go to work, and you might be lucky to go to the funeral, but you're not going to be able to keep anything to remember him because his family wants it. I don't mean to sound like I'm projecting, but please don't do this to yourself. You're going to end up with a complex if you stick around where she has cock-blocked your entire life despite the fact that you're the one there to do the heavy lifting. Sometimes jealousy is not supposed to be ignored. So please move on. Don't do 4 years like I did. It's been a while now, but I now have to do therapy to be able to function in the relationship that actually is living the dream for me. I hope OP sees that. I really hope OP does. At the end of the day, it is their choice to stick out this relationship if that is what they want. But I do believe that resentment will grow, and I don't think they will get any of the benefits of being family like this commenter has said. I think OP stands to lose so much and lose in so many areas of their life if they stick out this relationship. But again, it is always going to be their choice. I hope we get another update in the future that tells us what OP has decided to do, but as it stands right now, it is what it is. Good luck, OP. Please read the comments. Please take to heart the valid criticisms and advice that people have given you and the stories that they have shared. And thank you, OP, for sharing your story with us. I very much appreciate that.